Alright, Kingkillers, we're covering chapters 10 through 11 in this episode. It's a couple fantastic chapters. We speculate on what might be happening with Denna behind the scenes, get a great back and forth with Devi. Also, we're going to get the great meeting between Auri, Kvothe, and Elodin, and we're going to dive more into Auri theories in her book, The Slow Regard of Silent Things. You're also going to get some helpful tips on how to kiss from me, a fun new theory about the Chandrian and their sidling ways, and why Tim once ate a dog bone, as well as what kind of hats the great and almighty powerful Grey Dalcenti wears. So sit back and enjoy.
All right, welcome back, you beautiful, intelligent, and glorious killers, to the pinnacle of killer broadcasts, Kingkiller Podcast. Tonight, I, Fitz, am joined by two very adept co-hosts, my little moon phase, Commando Dan and Topless Tim. You guys staying warm out there?
Yeah, a little chilly going fucking commando.
I feel good. I'm flopping around. I'm, letting them bounce.
You're not
wind.
commando.
Feels nice.
You're fucking.
No, he's got
topless.
those tassels swinging, baby.
You're letting your fucking,
Jiggling.
big old man boobs jiggle. I got you.
Yeah.
Looking good, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I've been going for. Always showing the dick root. So when you're topless, it kind of over exemplifies, which, it's a strong move. It's a power move when you walk into a room to break that out, but it's what I like to come with. I like to bring the funk, bring the thunder, as they say.
Well, and Dan with his
what they say.
And
yes, Tim, flashing a little dick root, bringing the thunder.
and Dan with his 1990s jorts on, Commando, he's obviously showing dick root too. It's not very becoming.
Tip. Just the tip.
You said? Oh, I thought you said tent. Just the tip. Okay. Well, I don't know how that's. Well, whatever.
No, he's got jorts
All right.
on. He's not showing any tip.
Crush that in opening.
Well, luckily the content tonight's better than anything we could do, so let's dive right in. Chapter 10, framed Being Treasured. In this chapter, Kvothe has just left admissions with his tuition set at 9 and 5 jots. He heads to the stocks at the fishery and attempts to be fronted some silver and gold, but is told he's unauthorized. Kvothe goes to the Grey Man and Imre to call on Denna. He meets the porter, who takes him to Denna's room, where he meets her latest Dunsky, Jeffrey. Jeffrey leaves, and the two spend the day together. Denna plays the harp and reveals her nomadic nature, while the two drink chocolate. Later, Kvothe heads to Devi's to get a loan for tuition. Meanwhile, Devi progressively offers Kvothe 40 talents and a gliss in his whistle, if you'll allow it, in exchange for the secret way into the archives. But Kvothe denies her. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he keeps that running theme going here, like for the opening 10 chapters, where he's constantly counting down how much money he's got in the purse. So he goes, gets his 9 talents and 5 for his tuition, and then goes and picks up 2 talents, 3 jots, and 8 drabs. It also gives you the breakdown too, that your 60% comes out to 4 talents, 8 jots. After the material and piecework used, you're left with 2 talents, 3 jots, 8 drabs. And it's like, all right, 6 talents. More money than he's had that I can think of, other than when Ambrose had to fucking pay him the 20 talents, but he spent that right away. So outside of that moment, this is probably the most money he's had since he was a little kid, and he's still short.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That always keeps us in that constant running towards that greater amount of money that he seems to always need. but also getting some clarity on how it really works in terms of getting his payment, how he gets paid for what he's doing, and how that balances out. It's cool.
Yeah, Kvothe's hustle never stops. I'll add that to it. Like, the guy is always, I mean, he's not always broke, but he always ends up broke and having to get money. He's in a constant hustle.
Yeah, I love the constant reminders of, and we've talked about it quite a bit, but I love the constant reminders of like what he could buy. It's always like, oh well, that total would get me this, and we actually get it in a minute with Devi especially. But I thought it was interesting when he was like, all right, well, I guess I'll start something new. I'll need this, and he starts going into like bronze and silver and gold and copper. I was gonna say, or I was going to speculate. Was he gonna make a gram?
No, he was going to sell.
He
was going to sell the gold and silver and copper for money.
Well, I know that was kind of the assumption from Jackson. Well, okay, I guess it could be that direct. I was just wondering if those are any of the things that were needed to make a gram.
He doesn't know how to. He doesn't know how to make a gram at this point. Like you remember, like when when he needs a gram, they have to go on a big mission to find out how to make one. Yeah, he was definitely going to sell all that stuff. He was definitely using the place as a money lender.
You're not supposed to do that.
No,
but you're not supposed to do that.
Giltman's on top of shit. He's like, yeah.
No, but I thought Kvothe, he wasn't capable of doing those types of things, because it's wrong.
Yeah. No, he's cool with that. He's just got one specific thing that he's like, no, drawing a line here. But yeah, I like the fact that it keeps building up. This. All right, I gotta get more money, and then finally hits the end of the road, and it's like shit. All right, well, I still got Devi. It's like I still got my one out. Didn't want to use her, but he still has her as a fallback option, which I'm glad that's the way it works out, because Devi's such a great character, and it brings in such an interesting element when he owes her money, and what ends up happening with them. It obviously adds a lot to the story, so it works out well for us.
Yeah, it's really interesting that she's sort of a source of risk and something he'd rather not do. But in our position, yeah, we always want her to come back. So it puts the reader in an interesting position, because you are rooting for Kvothe, but at the same time, she's quite pleasant. Even though it ends up being that relationship gets tested, but yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, I always like when we realize like he's coming back to her, because it's always that rancid smell of meat, right? It's always that smell every time. It's like, oh shit, so he's there. It's cool. It gets there pretty quick in this circumstance. But
so on that same line, I enjoyed the build out of the moneylenders, the guild. We're reminded that Kvothe isn't even able to be lent money, which to throw out another that cliche again. It's kind of real world again, because while I'll just say it like this, there's a cap on what you can charge people in interest on at payday loans. It's it's basically extortion. But in my opinion, you ought to be Kvothe needs the money. He ought to be able to go to whomever he wants. If that person has the money and is willing to loan it to Kvothe at these huge interest rates, as Devi is, why the hell would that be illegal? Here's somebody who's in need. Here's somebody who has. Let's make an exchange and do make profit. Give people what they need.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when you make it illegal, you're not helping the person who needed to borrow the money. I mean, because they're just going to go underground to get it, and it's going to be a more dangerous, violent situation, where it's not going to be like, we can seize your car or your house. It's going to be, we will come and break your kneecaps. So it just puts him in a dangerous, a more dangerous situation. So, but it's a nice aspect and that that's how it works. I mean, if you limit the ability for it to be done legally, then it's going to be done. There's still a market for it. The market doesn't disappear; it just goes underground. So it's nice that that is in this world. That's how it works. It's consistent with how it should work.
Yeah, I mean it's logically consistent. It makes sense. I like the especially this guy, the doorman.
Yeah,
when he goes to see Denna. And there's such a great payoff that we end up getting with there's some foreshadowing here with how the porter smiles at Kvothe. It was gracious, polite, and so sharply unpleasant that I took special note of it, fixing it in my memory. A smile like that is a work of art. As someone who grew up on the stage, I could appreciate it on several levels. A smile like that is like a knife in certain social settings, and I might have need of it someday. Which is pretty great because I don't remember exactly how it's stated, but he uses that knowledge in the future.
Yeah, to get to the mayor, to get to the mayor.
Like
He's has no way. He's lost all his stuff, and he has no way to get up to the mayor, and so he goes and just sits down at a coffee shop and asks one of the servers. Like, who's that guy? Sees some guy, puffed up noble, and he's like, who's that guy? And gets some information on him, and then he goes up and just goes and bulldozes right through that guy and gets him, escorting him to the mayor.
Manipulates him. Yeah. Which, by the way, that kind of reminds me of what we've talked about with Denna, like how she's able to just negotiate these things with no prospects. Now, obviously, she has her looks and what people are attracted to, but without prospects and smelling like the road, she's able to get a suitor and then be in a nice position where she's being taken care of within virtually no time. So it kind of reminded me of that with that situation with Kvothe. I love stuff like this where we get a piece of how he picked up this particular weapon, so to speak, and then we get to see him utilize it chapters later. It's fucking great. It's a nice little payoff.
Yeah, that's a great scene too. Like, that guy, that guy does not want to let him in, and he just wilts under that smile. So it pays off in a funny way too.
It's such a great nuance because the guy's job, it's such a strange job to have to do, to where you kind of got to be a dick, but then you also have to be gracious because this is his fucking job, and he's supposed to, basically make sure the right people are let in.
Oh, no, that wasn't his job. He just happened to be there, and he's a noble.
No, I'm talking about the porter.
Oh, the porter. The porter. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah, I'm talking about the guy here, which I just see that as such an interesting situation to be in, where he's basically a guard, but he's also a butler basically. So he's got to go get things for Denna and who's the Brickjaw? What's his? I don't remember his name.
Jeffrey.
I guess it is.
Yeah,
Jeffrey.
The Brickjaw McMoney Pants.
Yeah,
Kellen.
Yeah, Kellen. That's it. So he's hired help or whatever, but he still has to do. Well, he doesn't want to let Kvothe in. Kvothe looks shady. He doesn't like him clearly. But then when Denna says, bring him in, he has to come back with a little bit deflated, but still do his job. Those little nuances are great. I've never been in a position like that, but to picture this guy, the types of little tightrope walks he has to do socially, it's an interesting situation.
I like the. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask this guy Jeffrey that is in Denna's room when he goes up there. Is he a John?
No.
I got that impression because without saying too much, Kvothe says, well, his outfit was rumpled and his hair was unkempt.
Yeah, he looked like he's a noble that's, kind of, short on money. And so he's still got the clothes and everything, but he can't keep it up. he can't keep up his, he like his hair looks, like it's professionally done, but it hasn't been done up in a while. So it looks haggard because he's broke. He's, doesn't have the money to keep up the appearances that he's trying to keep up.
So then who the hell is he? And what's he doing in Denna's room?
He's just a noble she met. Like,
he's a poet.
It's later on we find out, like, he came to Emery to try to make his name as a poet. So, or, something along those lines, a poet or a singer or something. I think a poet. But he's just a noble that's trying to make his name in the world.
I like what it reveals about Denna. Well, first I was going to say, I don't know how you guys pictured Jeffrey, but I'm thinking either like Boy George,
you. Like I thought he reminds me exactly of
God.
You.
I was going to say like Boy George or Jack Palance. Yeah, one of those two.
But Jeffrey, Boy George, Tim.
So I like his description. He's like he's when he's real excited to meet Kvothe, and Kvothe says he's guileless. Denna said that he you couldn't rub two sticks together and make a spark in his brain, or rub two thoughts together. I just think of this slack-jawed guy.
Yeah, well, like what she says about him to me says a lot about her, because it's just like. She's like, he's trusting, but he doesn't have a calculating boat in his body. He's done nothing but make bad choices since he got. It's kind of the way she describes him and feels about him. It seems like it's the opposite, not the exact opposite of her, but the things that she sees as important and necessary to survive in the world. He doesn't have those traits, man. Well, he's not able to just.
And she sees him swimming in her waters. This is her world that he's dipping his toe into. And she's like, no, man, you don't belong here. Go, don't get in with the gamblers and, the hustlers and the money lenders and the gaylets. Like, stay away from these people. They're going to rob you blind, buddy. You're not ready for this game.
Yeah, it's like he's too naive and just not capable. He's incapable of handling these types of situations, which she knows intimately how to handle these situations. So she's an authority. It just seems like she feels bad for him,
Yeah, I like the too when he's Danail has told me quite a bit about you. You're a bit of a wizard? And he's like, just call me an arcanist, fucking little storybook kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's and when he comes up later on, he's just a fucking born sucker. Is what we find out about him, is he's just a total sucker that you could, if he's left by himself for too long and no one's there to protect him, he's gonna end up penniless on the street. But so, and then we get some stuff where when Denna, he tells Denna that he got her a present, and he gives her the tea and the two whatever concoctions that she can make to kind of help her breathing. And we get the little nugget, I talked about it when it came up, but when she was drugged, she doesn't remember telling him the things she told him. The things she talked about with him, she does not remember that stuff. So that's the reason I think that's important, is it shows, her guard was down and she was telling him things she normally would not tell him. But it also shows, like, when she's spilling the beans there, she's not, it doesn't give the impression that she was trying to manipulate Kvothe in that scenario. It doesn't seem like she was spying on him or trying to manipulate him or screw him over, because when she was all drugged up and spilling the beans, she's gives the exact opposite impression, and that's not guile. She doesn't even remember she did it.
I think that's really important. That's a really important point, because without something like that, even with it, I think a lot of people out there probably think she's luring him in, especially given the state that he's in book 3, that it sort of could be felt that way. But yeah, I think that scene in particular definitely makes it clear that, like, no, she's clearly into him and would be willing to, be with him and make this thing, try this thing out. But old Kvothe, he's a little too scared.
Speaking of that, here we go again. He's up in Denna's room, and without a mention of what happened there romantically, because obviously nothing happened. Again.
Yeah, and it wasn't a good point. Like, I mean, they didn't have that back and forth flirty environment. Like, it's the longer it goes without him making a move and stuff, the more firmly it plants him down as one of her friends.
Yeah, that's how it works.
A romantic partner option.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens when people get slid into the friend zone, man.
But I'll bring this up because you say, it wasn't a great time, with the back and forth. But what it did have, the aspect that it did have, was Denna playing the harp for him, and him, blatantly stating that at that point he looked past everything else that he'd ever seen in her, and this was why he was attracted to her more than anything else. It was her playing.
I like this a lot. This whole segment speaks a lot about music and what he talks about, where he's like, speed is not the key. What Marie had done at the Aeolian was amazing, but how quickly you can finger notes is the smallest part of music. The real key is timing. And then Fitz, you should be listening to this. It's like telling a joke. Anyone can remember the words, anyone can repeat it, but making someone laugh requires more than that. Telling a joke faster doesn't make it funnier. As with many things, hesitation is better than hurry. But yeah, then when he goes on and describes... What?
Obviously, I already knew that, Tim. It's not the faster you tell it, it's how well you explain the joke that you just made.
Yeah, that's the key. And you really want to draw it out. That's what he's saying. You really want to draw it out, put a lot of ellipses in there, make it take a while, make them wait for it, then hit them with the lack of a punchline. And then you explain why it should have been funny to them. That really lands super hard.
And follow the explanation up with, see how I did that?
Go the other route, too. You can explain the punchline before you even tell the joke. So, like, here's what I'm going to tell a joke. And the funny part is going to be when I say this. And the reason it's going to be funny is because of that. Now, get ready. Here we go. And then you tell the joke. And then they know when to laugh.
Hang on, guys. I'm writing all this down. So to explain the joke beforehand.
Yeah. So as he's talking about music and going into more detail, he's like, but knowing the notes isn't enough. You have to know how to play them. Speed comes with time and practice, but timing you're born with. You either have it or you don't. Denna had it. And that's what you were talking about. How she moves through the song. She's not plotting. She plays it slow as a luxurious kiss. Not that he knew anything. Not that I knew anything of kissing at that point in my life. But as she stood with arms around the harp, eyes half-lidded, I knew I someday wanted to be kissed with that amount of slow, deliberate care. So, yeah, he's getting a little aroused looking at this.
Randy. It's a little Randy.
Yeah. A little Randy.
You don't need experience kissing. Just, lots of tongue all around the mouth, outside of the mouth. That's what women love.
But yeah, it's kind of cool, and it does speak to his character that as she plays, he's kind of accepting her as, I don't know, the unique individual that she is, rather than like being fixated on how she looks and how she smells like dirt and all that stuff that he's so intoxicated with typically. It's interesting to take it that way, like as if he wasn't already into her. He's into her to a further degree here, as he slides himself further and deeper into the friend zone.
Yeah, we also get line where I don't have much to do but practice, and McMoney Pants, Big Jaw Dickerson said, I have a bit of a knack. And he's like, how long have you been at it? I asked. 3 span. She looked thoughtful, then nodded. A little less than 3 span. Mother of God, I said, shaking my head, don't ever tell anyone how quickly you've picked it up. Other musicians will hate you for it. But like the I have a bit of a knack. Like, yeah, I always pay attention to that because knacks aren't just, it's not like our world. Trip has a knack where every time he rolls sevens, hits a table, he bets on someone, sevens every time. So it's more of a magical quality that they don't really control outwardly. It's just part of who they are.
Like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It again, man, this really hints, or it makes me think deeper about her history. There's something to her, man, in terms of her lineage. There's definitely something ingrained in how she has these abilities, how she's so excellent at so many things.
Yeah, it's curious, like, because, obviously we're getting the story from Kvothe's perspective, so we're always in Kvothe's head. But when you kind of step out and you pan out on Denna and what's going on with her, and it seems she's had a similar upbringing. She's a hustler. She's got a lot of skills. She's witty. She's charismatic, and she seems to have an ability to do things at a higher level than a normal person would do.
She also has a lot of knowledge. Like, she knows her theater, and she knows references. Like,
and she's learning magic. She's got a mysterious patron. She has a mysterious agenda. Like, it could be that through the story of Kvothe, where the like ultimate hero figure or the rising star is gonna be Denna, and part of the tragedy for Kvothe is gonna be having to let her go because she's got bigger things that she needs to do, or something along those lines, where she's going to be the heroic figure that sacrifices herself to save everybody. And something along those lines, where we're getting the story of the hero, but we're not getting it from the hero's perspective. We're getting it from Kvothe's perspective as watching the hero rise.
That's interesting.
It's really interesting as well that, like, the magic she talks about, and I'm not going to skip ahead, but the magic she talks about and she dabbles in, so to speak, is not something we've seen anywhere else.
No,
it's super interesting that it comes from her, because there's already so much coming from her and that she represents. It's kind of comes out of left field almost to a degree that it would come from Denna, because there's so many other sources with Elodin and Kilvin and just all these other characters that you would more expect it to come from. So for it to come from Denna,
in that same vein, though,
choice.
Denna's, at least from what we know of the knowledge that is based in the university but spread across the world, the Chandrian are bad. Denna is directly opposed to what those people who could be the potential informational hero, or she's opposed to what they believe, at least as far as the Chandrian go.
But she doesn't mention the Chandrian. She has her songs about Lanre. She just cuts off, what happens after the fact. So she doesn't paint the Chandrian in a positive light. She paints Lanre in a positive light. But again, there might be gray to the Chandrian. It might, we might not have the whole picture. Maybe, there's always the possibility that they didn't kill his parents, or they're not responsible for what happened at the Mawthen farm. I don't believe that's the case, but we don't see it happen. It happens off screen. So there's always that possibility that they're not doing these things. But the fact that they're, dancing on the grave of, his parents, the Kvothe certainly gives the impression that they murdered, and tortured his mom and his dad, and Cinder was the one who played the key role in it. I mean, it's certainly given the impression that they are doing these things, but even if they didn't, they're fucking dancing on the parents' grave, you know, in front of Kvothe. And why would they just show up afterwards and they're just chilling, you know, just chilling, having a fucking talk by the fire in this horror show fucking campsite, and they're just like fucking chilling there.
Yeah, that's the thing. They sidle into horrific events and they're like, see what we did? And they just take credit for it. That's fucking weird. That's super fucking weird. Like that's their thing. They're the, I don't know, the Al Qaeda.
Yeah, because I mean they were there. We see the signs at the Mothan farm, so presumably they were there too. So like, why would they just keep showing up like after these horrific events just to like go and chill and hang out and like, man, look at this. That was us. This was weird.
We did it. It was us. We're bad.
Yeah, so they just show up at the end of these events high-fiving. Like, dude, you see that? Oh man, I was so good today.
They're not doing any of it, but they're taking credit for it. And they're like there's this mass murderer walking around getting pissed because the Chandrian keeps stealing his fucking thunder. He's like, God damn it, every time I go and commit a massacre and I think I'm finally gonna make it on the big time, gonna get on the number one most wanted list, and then the Chandrians show up with their stupid signs and they steal all my glory.
Yeah,
I love the idea of like this hierarchy of murderers, and this guy's just trying to get up the list. This is what he's been going for his whole life. He's like, man, I know I have it in me. I know I can be better than these other guys. You know, these other Jack the Ripper and John Wayne Gacy. I'm better than those guys, man.
I'm more vicious. I'm more thorough.
Around. They're like, you know, serial killer sidlers. They
That's
just
what
kind
I'm saying.
Sidle up and take the credit for shit after the fact.
They don't even copycat. They just sidle. Cinder sits around at the bar. He's like, "Hey, did you hear about that family that got murdered and raped?"
Well, they learned it from
that road?
Learned it from.
It was me.
They learned it from old Grey, the great and almighty.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Grey Dalcenti. That's he sidled up and got in with the Chandrian, and then they after a while they started thinking about it, and they were like, that was a pretty slick move you had there. Like, why don't we instead of going around like killing people, like why don't we just wait until massacres happen, and then we'll just sidle up and take the credit for it. We got all these signs. We'll fucking blue flame the shit out of the place, and everyone will think we did it. We don't have to do any of the work.
I love the idea that they pose that to Grey Dalcenti, and he just looks at him, hits his cig, maybe winks, and they're just like, "Yeah, let's do it." He's on board. He just
nods.
He winks. He just tips it. He wears a cowboy hat, obviously. So
obviously,
so he hits his cigarello and then just fucking does a little
tips it.
Tip of the cap.
I've been picturing a Kangol hat this whole time.
No, Grey Dalcenti. He's the Lone Ranger, man. Like, of course he wears a Cowboys hat.
Wait, cowboy or cowboys? He wears Cowboys
multiples. Fan? He wears multiple Cowboys hats.
Wait, but they're all Dallas Cowboys? I'm getting confused.
Multiple Cowboys hats.
Yeah.
He gets them off of Cowboys.
Yeah.
He kills like Cowboys.
When they go and they sidle up and they find a massacre place, he's always rummaging around for cowboy hats.
Ah, he's taking hats.
Uh-huh.
That's what this dude's doing.
I got it.
He's switching the hats. He's always got the leather duster, but he's just changing the hats.
Yeah.
He's just switching the hats.
I think he's bald.
Okay.
He might be bald underneath or what? Like, why is he always got to get a new hat? Like, what's the deal? He
just looks
the
good.
Son or
he looks good.
No, he's a stylist, dude. He's got those tips. He's always got the changing.
Like he wants to be. He likes to go and do one of those moves where he takes his fingers across the rim of the hat in front of it.
Yeah, he's big on nonverbal communication. So
a wipe across the front. Does the cowboy wiper move?
He swipes the bill. Swipe the bill.
Yeah.
A lot of swiping the bill, a lot of flicking
Yeah,
smokes.
it's like the Karate Kid, and they're like, "Sweep his leg, Johnny," and they're like,
"Swipe the bill, Gray.
Sweep the bill, Gray." Yeah.
I don't see him performing though. If somebody asked him to do something, I think he'd flick a cigarette in their eye. Like I'd be like, "Fuck you." No.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I do this shit
That's
when it's on me.
Yeah.
But speaking about awesome images, we do get some really good description and Denna just fawning over the beautiful, sexy ass phalanges of good old Kvothe here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I brought up. Your hands are your hands are soft. I thought the calluses would be rough, but they're not. They're smooth. Yeah, man, he's got them fucking fine ass hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he
Those
wears
gloves
the
are paying
fingerless
off.
gloves.
And she had her hair up, showing off. I guess she's got a super fine neck too, man. She's got that elegant neck, flashing them fucking golden lobes. He's sitting there flaunting them sexy hands, man. It's getting steamy in there.
Mm-hmm. Hands on lobes, man. There's no turning back.
It's so weird picturing these two appendages, like these hands and ears, like
neck.
It seems very
neck
odd
and
now.
ears and hands.
Is it odd because it's turning you on so much, Tim? What is doing to you? Just the weird part?
No, just highlighting those things. It's not erogenous at all. Like it's just kind of weird, but whatever. Everybody's got their thing, right?
We get another one of those mentions too of, once her eyes weren't fixed on mine, I regained a small piece of my wits. And, it just takes time, I said. So, again, her staring at him looking into her eyes, it's a similar effect that Elodin has on him. He doesn't talk about it in the same way, but he definitely, stumbles all over himself. I mean, you could read it where it's just, he's just madly in love with this girl, so he gets tripped up looking in her eyes. But it because of the situations where, like, he looks in Cinder's eyes or looks in Elodin's eyes and he gets tripped up, it's noticeable that it keeps happening with Denna.
Well, and I like especially how he words it. It's super simple, but he just says, Denna looked up, gave a shy smile. My mind went blank as fresh paper. Especially for somebody like Kvothe, who, I mean, he's the wittiest dude in this world, damn near. And for something like that, it's like Denna just has this hold over him.
Yeah, and we get another piece of information on Denna. It's especially going to come up here in the next chapter she's in, when she learns the magic from Kvothe and Will and Sim. But when she rings the bell and they get the hot chocolate, he's like, he isn't eavesdropping. There's another bell downstairs that rings in time with this one. How? She asked, and answered her own question. Magic. You could call it that. Is that the sort of thing you do over there? She jerked her head in the direction of the river and the university beyond. It seems a little tawdry. It's the most frivolous use of sigildry I've ever seen, I said. Denna burst out laughing. You sound so offended. She said, then it's called sigildry? Making something like that is called artificing. I said, sigildry is writing or carving the runes that make it work. Denna's eyes lit up at this. So it's a magic where you write things down? She asked, leaning forward in her chair. How does it work? Reason that's relevant is, now, she hasn't seen Master Ash since the Mothin Farm. And so when they teach her magic in a few chapters, she asked them if they've heard of a magic that you could just write something down and then it happens. Like, you don't have to use, sympathy. There's no principles, like, as far as, bad links, good links, pulling energy from one place, changing the energy. There's none of those aspects to it. It's just you write it down, it happens. Straight up, non-principle type magic. And they dismiss it, and she's like, it's just something someone had told me. Obviously, she was like, it seemed too good to be true. So when she hears about this sigildry and her eyes light up, it's because Master Ash has obviously been dangling that he's going to teach her magic, and then he could teach her a magic that you just write down. So he's obviously dangling power in front of her. And then when she hears about the Sigildry, her eyes light up. She's like, "Oh, it's this, what he's talking about." And then she starts the next time she sees them, she starts digging in a little bit more, trying to figure it out. And then when she hears more about it, then she gets a little disappointed, and she's like, "Oh, he must have been fucking lying to me."
Yeah, it's an interesting, sort of foreshadow, or it's like, yeah, because of her timeline and what we know, what we end up finding out. Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. I like the how she displays, hey, look at this bell, and I get this guy to come run and get stuff for me. It's like two poor kids kind of enjoying something that they never would have had, or they haven't had, for such a long time. I kind of like that thing between them. But yeah, again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about how her knowledge of this. Yeah, man, I need to know about this patron, man. This whole, like, why he's leading her in these directions, why he's sort of teasing out like he's going to teach her something. I would assume that whole dialogue would be like she's not quite ready for it, but
But you know what? Like when Kvothe talks about in the beginning of the story, he's like, and Bast is like, why didn't you go find Abinthy or something along those lines? And he's like, if the story was, following the typical fairy tale story arc, I would go find the Mad Hermit in the woods, and he would teach me, crazy magics, and then we would go hunt down the Chandrian. Well, she's meeting, and that could be a description of what's happening with Denna, that we're just not getting the on-screen version of it. Like, she meets this crazy old dude who's like fucking beating her and teaching her crazy magic. She bringing her in the woods to the Mothin farm when they get massacred. But he's doing awful shit, similar like the masters whip the shit out of him while he's learning magic. But she's being taught things that she wants to know. She's learning from someone who has power, or at least has knowledge, who can teach her how to acquire power. So we can't, like, that's why I bring up the fact that the story could be that we're just not getting the hero's tale from the hero's perspective. We're getting it from Kvothe, and we're not witnessing the hero's tale, in front of us, even though that very could very clearly be what's happening with Denna.
So are you suggesting, though, that the stuff that she's learning is different or secret from what Kvothe is learning? I mean, I know that they're not teaching Yillish knots at the, and we're not positive that that's what she's doing with her hair either. But any kind of secret knowledge that that you could write down something and it would come to fruition, which seems like shaping, if I'm not mistaken. But they're not teaching that.
It seems like a totally separate type of magic. Like when we see like the most, I'll go into like shaping. I think we get our only real clear example of it, but it doesn't seem like shaping. But the Yillish knots seem like a written magic. She just ties the knot in her hair, and the person sees it and they think it, and so it can make someone's mind change and make them think things that they normally wouldn't think, or see things they wouldn't normally see. So it's not sympathy, it's not sigildry, it's closer to naming or shaping or gramarye or glamory. It's like a fae. It's more of a fae type of magic, old world magic, than this mechanical principled magic where there's a give and a take. Just seems like it's a extremely powerful magic that's more like the Force than sigildry or something along those lines.
It seems to me specifically manipulative towards other humans. And I wonder if Elodin is hinting at it when he says there's 7 words to make someone fall in love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, perhaps, or that maybe just be this is a Kvothe thing and Elodin's leading Kvothe and hinting, I know things about you. It could just be that. But I like this idea because what you're talking about is a big more overarching idea that I haven't really wholly considered, that Denna is the hero. If that is the case, then this is a massive payoff for Jack in the Box.
Yeah. Yeah, right? It's going to be huge.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't even considered it either, but yeah, that's even
like you
more
think
profound.
of like, you know, like when an artist dies and their art just skyrockets in value. When she sacrifices herself to save the world, like those Jack in the Box franchises are going to explode. They're going to be everywhere.
They'll be charging $7 for those mini tacos.
They keep expanding one right next to each other, so they're just gonna
they'll stack them.
There's gonna be there's gonna be 100 of them all in a line, but just in one location.
Yeah, but it'll be like paying homage to the hero. I mean, people are going just to see, you know, just to pay homage to the hero of this land, of this story.
It's a massive pilgrimage to Jack in the Boxes.
the fast food meccas, man.
Fast food,
fantastic.
Mecca.
She'll live on forever, and they'll just have a plaque of her on the wall, like employee of the month, but it'll be the employee of the century or what have you.
Yeah, but also too, like she doesn't. Another thing that's interesting about this shit is she doesn't know magic, so I think we can rule out that she's, you know, grew up in the Fae, or she is a Fae creature, or, you know, the moon, or any of these kind of things. Like, I think that there's a huge wrench in it. The fact that, like, she doesn't know magic, and magic is new and surprising to her. So she could be like, you know, a descendant of someone very powerful, or someone from the Fae, but I don't think she is, you know, outside of when she goes to work, I don't think she's like, you know, hanging out in the Fae doing powerful stuff.
Yeah, it seems more like she's like Kvothe in that
at least not at this
point.
You
know, maybe some of these powers she hasn't learned them yet, but they're still innate in her. I'm not saying that they are, but she definitely has an interest like Kvothe did for all that time.
Yeah, I think it does come from her lineage. It feels like that. So I think that could be something that we end up getting in the future. But I particularly like the situation that's described here. It very much mirrors Kvothe when he's with the mayor. She's kind of under lock and key. That whole situation where it's like, well, look at what you've done for yourself. Look at this place, you know, that you're with. And she's like, yeah, but this sucks. I fucking hate this type of thing. They're not my rooms. I'm not free to just come and go as much as I want. And it sort of foreshadows what we'll eventually see with Kvothe and the mayor. It's a really interesting place to put the reader in when we get those situations, because of how he sort of piecemeal gets things that he wants. But he also, I mean, he's stuck. I mean, there's not a whole lot he can do. And then we do get, you know, Braden, and that puts so much focus on their games, you know, tack or whatever, and the relationship that they end up having. It creates that focal point to such a great degree, just situationally. So I like it. I like that he, again, just like he typically does, he gives us a piece of something here that eventually will prepare our minds for the situation that is to come. That's going to be super important in the character arc for Kvothe.
Yeah, and I mean, it just like both their arcs mirror each other. It's just, you know, we're not in Denna's head. Like, so for example, like if we were getting the story from Denna's perspective, and then we hear about Elodin getting in a big fight with him, you know, at Haven, and throwing him off a building, and then the masters are, you know, whipping him and shit, and we don't have the inside stories. We're just seeing it secondhand. We'd be like, why is he sticking around? Like, you know, the
what's wrong with
masters
this
are
dude?
like throwing him out of buildings and whipping the shit out of him, and like, what's he doing there? So when we think about like her getting beat by, you know, by her patron, you know, you have to keep that in mind. There's you know, there's a more sinister element to it, in the fact that, you know, he's so secretive that she can't just outwardly say things. But Kvothe, when you ask him about Elodin and his fight with Elodin, like when Fella asks him about it, he just kind of like, oh, well, that's a funny story, and he's very elusive with it and not telling people these things. So like, if you're on an outside perspective, if you're not in his head, you could easily misconstrue. You know, a large part of the book is about, like, you know, if you're not in Kvothe's head, you see how badly his stories are misconstrued. So it could easily be the case that, you know, Denna's story is being misconstrued in one way or another.
That's an interesting point because, yeah, from the outside looking in, you'd think Kvothe is just like this kind of really strange sadist. Like, he's got all these powers. Why put up with all this shit?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, yeah. I mean, again, not being in his head. Being in his head, we understand all the forces at play.
But and like, you know, he's got the talent as a musician. Like, he could just be a very talented musician and live a pretty comfortable life as a musician. Like, why is he putting himself through all this shit? Well, we know it's because the fucking Chandrian wiped out his family, and he wants fucking revenge. We don't know what happened to Denna. She's clearly got ambitions, and she's got something bigger going on. We just don't know what happened to her, and we don't know what the ambition is, and we don't know exactly what's going on with the patron. And if we did, you know, we would have a much clearer picture of, you know, what her arc is actually is up to this point.
Well, that's a great point, what you say there, too. Think about Threp when he finds out more about Kvothe. It's like, what the fuck's this dude doing studying? Like, you're a musician, man. This is what you should be doing. And then when Kelvin finds out how much money he's able to make at the Elodin, he's like, oh, shit, am I going to lose you now? Both like a very rational approach to expect that. But that was kind of when we talked about that, when we were in those chapters, we were sort of, you know, I think we were using Michael Jordan as an example where it's like, yeah, no, this is just my thing I like to do. I'm actually really into
it's my hobby.
Like, no, dude, you're the best ever to do that. Yeah. So again, that's kind of, those are interesting sort of pictures from other people of how they would see it. And then again, looking at Kvothe from the outside, just how kind of surprising he would be as, you know, a character to try to figure out.
And it's I'll just say, because this is kind of new to me. I haven't while we, you know, parallel what the way that Kvothe and Denna's life, and while I'm at it, I'm going to digress and say she's got a knack for music. That is one innate, possibly magical qualities that mirrors Kvothe. But I had not thought about what her end goal is, what her end game is. So that's something to ponder.
She wants to get them sexy ass hands, dude.
Yeah,
that's what it is. She just wants them to rub her ears.
She wishes her hands were like Kvothe's hands. She's like, she is, you know, Charlie's uncle.
Charlie's uncle.
She's just really insecure about her hands, and she's always thinking about, like, is there a magic where I could, like, get his hands? And, like, I could just write down, I want his hands, and then he gets my hands, and then we just switch?
Yeah, I do like, it goes into greater detail. Kvothe even talks about, you know, his father and how he hated the similar situation of being under lock and key or feeling like it. Even when we were playing with Baron Greyfallow, they were wonderful times, and he gives him gifts and all that stuff, but he hated being stuck and couldn't tolerate that feeling. I like how Denna does describe it. If I leave, like staying with Kellen and being stuck in the room, if I leave, I'm being obstinate and rude, but if I stay, I feel like I'm a dog waiting by the door. So, you know, again, that kind of puts you right in that position where you're like, yeah, that would be a difficult situation to sort of have to deal with.
It should have been the biggest lesson for Kvothe as far as like what Denna wants. Like, like I've said a million times, she wants a partner in crime. She doesn't want someone to take care of her. She doesn't want to feel obligated to someone. She's her own individual person who feels she could take care of herself. She doesn't need anybody else, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't like feeling beholden to someone. So if you're going to approach someone who is like that, you don't approach him with, his thought process is always like, well, if I had money, I could do this for her and I could do that for her. It's not even what she wants. And she tries to make it clear to you. You can't get past the fact that you need to be the hero, and she doesn't want a hero. She feels that she can be her own hero. She just wants a fucking partner.
Yep. And she, I feel like we've talked about it the last couple episodes, but that wanting to move, that can't be tied down between her and Kvothe, both having those feelings of, I got to get up, I got to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Rothfuss has been kind of layering that in here, for a good while now. I was going to say, I mean, she kind of, man, she hits him right between the eyes with certain sayings that like would be very kind of revealing to a dude that can see through the bullshit, or not, it's not even bullshit, through his own haze. But he says, well, still, they're nice rooms, after they had this whole thing about being stuck. And she says, they're nice when you're here. So, you could take that, Kvothe. Again, she digs you. You could hang out more. Obviously, he always has trouble finding her and all that shit, but
yeah, but instead he spends the next week in the archives and then misses out again because she leaves. Not to jump ahead, but I'm saying this is his chance, and she's dropping this hint.
Well,
that, she doesn't want to be tied down.
And then they see each other pretty quick as far as chapters go. Yeah, a couple span go by, but they see each other again pretty quickly as far as what we read.
That does come back again, though, to what Dan said a moment ago. His mission is to find the Chandrian. And the archives, he thinks still in his mind, that's the key. So, I mean, it'd be nice if, Denna wants to hang out with him. It doesn't seem like he can cover her tuition. But, it's funny they don't talk about that at all. Like, he kind of, every now and again, he's impressed by her mind. And we've talked about it where it's like, maybe she could get in. She goes through admissions and maybe even make that shit happen. That doesn't matter. I mean, it's kind of weird to speculate on, but
yeah. So that's obviously what she does, but she goes, a different route to acquire magic. She just goes in a completely different direction and acquires completely different magic than him. But she clearly goes and finds magic. She goes and she she's not chasing the name of the wind, but she's chasing magic and she gets it.
I mean, just imagine, though, if they were spending a hell of a lot more time together and he's being Abinthy to her.
Well, just imagine if they were, like, open and honest with each other.
Yeah.
Instead of this fucking, this dancing around, fucking pussyfooting around everything. If they just fucking open up and be honest with each other, they'd see, like, hey, we're pretty much the same fucking person.
We could get this whole fucking book done in like a matter of 2 chapters if they just start spilling their guts.
This out if we could just sit them down and be like, look, would you guys just fucking talk to each other except without all this fucking, all the frills and fucking goofball shit? Just fucking
all the clever writing
and tell what the fuck's going on.
This is how you guys get your tensionless book that you want so bad, where they can just make it work. Come together and then boom, boom, boom. Now it's all happy.
Cut flower.
What's hilarious to me, though, is like how many people hate Denna, and I'm like, because I love Denna. I love Denna's character, and I'm always like, I love Kvothe, and the reason I love Kvothe is for the same reasons I love fucking Denna's characters. I mean,
I don't understand. I don't understand how someone would feel that way. That's weird.
What it makes me think is that either they have a vision of how Denna is supposed to be, like as far as how she relates to Kvothe, and she's not playing the role that they want. But like I feel like if you just reverse the situations and you were in Denna's head, you would still have those same. You should still have those same views about Kvothe, because what Kvothe's doing wouldn't make any fucking sense if you didn't know the backstory.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't It's really short sighted to be like, well, I think of her this way. All right, well, it's not your book.
Yeah,
man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, read the character. We don't know what the fuck
happened to her. Like, if we knew her backstory, it might all make perfect sense. Sure, I
can play devil's advocate on this because we three talk about this enough that you guys have pulled me along. I'm not saying that I would have disliked Denna, but definitely would have misunderstood her and not seen how complex of a character she is and how integral she is to the story. Not just because of how she relates directly to Kvothe being his wanting love, but what you guys have showed me that their characters are mirrored so well. I can see how someone who's reading this a little more superficially wouldn't pick up on that stuff, and so and so they don't like Denna because her character's not that hashed out unless you look at it deeply.
Well, and I think a big point also is their break with the Lanre song, and that's such a jarring moment for how you conceptualize the two of them and their relationship with that moment. But I think what Dan's bringing up is so key. Consider how she sees Kvothe. Consider what he looks like with, looking at the back of the baseball card of just the statistics of what she knows about him versus the way he talks. It's a difficult. He's a conundrum, man. He's a weird one to try to figure out when you consider the things that she would be hearing about him, and then how they're tugging
she's hearing him like fucking calling lightning and setting dudes on fire and calling a demon wind to fuck up Ambrose, and right in front of the Aeolian where there's witnesses that saw him call a demon wind. Witnesses saw it, a demon wind, well, she's hearing crazy stories.
Even that aside, she listened to him play the Lay of Sir Savian Trelliard. Like just those accomplishments of what he's able to do to a room with music is like, this motherfucker. But you take it up to notches of like what you're talking about and those types of things, man. How do you wrap your mind around this dude?
She's got enough. She's like Kvothe in that she's very, doubting of the fantastical fucking stories. She doubts the veracity of them. So, like, if she hears he called a demon wind, but there's so many witnesses saw it, so many people say it, it would still put that, that doubt, that it would put that doubt in your head where you'd be like, well, maybe it's true, maybe he did. He's got some kind of powers.
And she's also right now touching his hands. She's rubbing those calluses. They're real. Those aren't fake. Those are real hands.
Yeah,
I had to be sure. I had to make sure.
Pull the skin off of his hands and drape it over hers.
Jesus, she don't wear his hands as gloves.
Like go Hannibal on her.
She wants instead of fingerless gloves, she wants Kvothe fingers, finger skins,
Kvothe finger gloves,
finger skin gloves.
Finger skin gloves. There is
the
actually
Dracus too. Her knowing she saw the Dracus, she knows that Kvothe took care of it. So there's another aspect that she actually does have a little more knowledge of.
Well, shit, man, and he shows up when she just got knocked. She almost got murdered at the Mothman Farm. She's sitting in a room by herself. Who shows up? Fucking Kvothe. Like, it's insane. I mean, it's you. This guy's got powers. How's this possible? How are these things possible?
But she
all right. Speaking to that,
she doesn't see his powers until a few chapters, and then she sees it. She sees him do magic, and then eventually she he calls the name of the wind when she's having an asthma attack. So it's later on that she starts to see like, okay, this motherfucker is a magician. He is a wizard.
But I mean, showing up in those moments, that's kind of otherworldly.
Oh yeah,
type of thing. But so here's a theory for you. Kvothe is an automaton. He talks about feeling like an automaton every now and then. And in this scene with her, she asked if he would like something to drink. He said, "That would be very kind of you." I said, purely on reflex. I realized my hand was still hanging stupidly in midair, and I let it fall to my side. He's an automaton. That's all you need.
Learning how to love.
So you think that when the chocolate came up, Kvothe just threw it in his face and was like, "This is delicious."
Yeah. You're supposed to
I'll flesh
pour
it
it down
out.
your mouth,
I'll piecemeal
not just throw it
my
in your
evidence.
face.
He's just rubbing it all over his face.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like, what if he poured it in his hands, rubbed his hands, he's like, "That's how you get these."
Yeah.
That's how. So then Denna's like, "Oh, okay."
Chocolate.
Well, like you go from Denna to one of my favorites. I mean, these chapters, we're gonna cover are fantastic because you go from a great, scene with Denna, some subtle layers. Obviously, they give you a lot to talk about, and then you move into Devi, and you get some more. Where because he's like, several hours later, I climbed a narrow flight of stairs behind a butcher's shop. There was a faint, pervasive smell of rancid fat from the alley below, but I was smiling. An afternoon with Denna entirely to myself was a rare treat, and my step was surprisingly light for someone about to make a deal with a demon. I think that line could be important because Kvothe has to trick a demon to get his heart's desire. So Demon Devi, it could be that people, when they say he had to trick a demon, it's that he had to trick Demon Devi. And then people who don't know Devi and they just hear the nickname, it just through the telephone game gets turned into that he had to trick a demon, but he tricked Devi to get his heart's desire. And then when you think about that possibility, then you got to go like, well, what would he have to trick her over? And we see later on how intensely she wants to get into the archives. It could be that she finds out how he gets in there, that he goes and sees Auri, and then she uses Auri to get in the archives, and he has to, trick Devi to get Auri back, or something in that vein. He's got to do something. There's something with Devi and Auri where he has to trick Devi to help Auri, save Auri, protect Auri, something along those lines.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. She gets kind of the emotional, in terms of like the emotional interactions between the two of them. She kind of gets the short straw, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I could see that playing out.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's the top, my top theory, because I do think she's a princess, and I think he's gonna rescue her from King Koopa, the Barrow King, and
it's the most obvious.
And I think it could be that the Barrow King is the demon that he has to trick to get Auri back, and then when they talk about he had to fight an angel to keep his heart's desire, and this is the face of a man who's killed an angel. It could be that someone tried to take her to Haven, and he kills or fights and kills them. So maybe it's Elodin or something like that, and that's the demons could be could be someone from Devi to the Barrow King. The angel could be someone like Elodin or one of the masters, Lauren or Elxadal or someone like that he kills to protect Auri.
That'd be rough.
Yeah, this is this scene in particular. While I'm not privy to all the theories that you just said, Dan, on a more basic level, how bad Devi wants into those archives, and the sight of her when she's talking about how she turns on women, but turns from impish to evil, and so as I was reading, I got these feelings that there's a real dark side to Devi, obviously, but she knows something about these archives, and she's not able to get in. And it's almost like she turns into this golem type of creature when Kvothe said, when the opportunity is for him to be able to give, when he's considering giving her the information to get into the place. So my mind immediately went to, what is this information that's in the archives that Devi wants? Because there's something there that she wants, and she wants power. So there's something powerful there, and it's not just regular information. There's something deep there.
Yeah, she's not just looking to get in the archives because she wants access to the books. That's not that's not the case. I mean, and Rothfuss wrote that scene where she has such an intense desire to get down there that it can't be, one, because he made it her desire to get down there so intense. She's gonna get down there. She's gonna find a way, and that puts Auri in her sights directly. So that's what makes me think that there could be a run-in with them. It's not so much a theory, because it's not like there's supporting evidence that is going to happen. It's just that if you look at where her trajectory is, it's aiming straight at Auri. And so
I hadn't realized that. That's interesting.
It's almost like Chekhov's gun at that point when you see that amount of desire. It's like, well, she's got to get in there, and so she's pointing directly at Auri, and you got to think that gun's going to go off at some point. So that's what makes me believe that there could be some kind of interaction between Auri and Devi, and so that, and the fact that they call her Demon Devi, and he has to trick a demon to get his heart's desire. That's why those wheels get turning. It's all speculation. We don't know.
That's interesting.
There's not evidence that's like, okay, this is what leads me to I have reasons why I think that is a possibility, but I can't say that it's definitely going to go that way. It's not. I'm not predicting that's how it's going to go, but it is a strong possibility because of what happens in this scene.
Yeah, I mean, she so quickly goes from 10, 20, 30, 40 and just is hitting them, and then offers herself up. It's like, holy shit. I mean, she doubles down, triples, quadruples down super fast. And he's just reeling in his mind like, I could buy this, this, and this. And he's barely had a chance to respond.
Yeah, she turns into an animal. She turns animalistic in her desire for it. It's that telling of Devi was really over the top. Not that it was, but it was obvious.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting too. I was just gonna say it's interesting as well that Kvothe's mind goes to Auri. I mean, it makes sense because he knows what's at risk there. But I mean, that again is kind of these moments where Kvothe doesn't have to do that, so puts him in the position of being thoughtful but also heroic. Where it really matters, because, dude, 40 talents plus that ass.
Yeah. Well,
pretty tempting.
Which by the way, he doesn't even consider.
Yeah, no shit.
I didn't even know what to think about that.
Well, there's a couple things
I can't deal with that.
tie into that I was extremely disappointed in. It's like, yeah, obviously, she's talking about her desire, and then Kvothe, I think, is rightly realizing that her desire puts her on a course to run into Auri. But when when they're making their deal on how many talents are going to get in, one of the things she brings up is you wouldn't come to me if you didn't need the money. You wouldn't come to me because I'm pretty and you like my hair. And he's like, It is a lovely color. We fiery types should really stick together. That's horseshit. Because she has strawberry blonde hair. She does not have fucking red hair. She is not a ginger. And I think Kvothe is putting it in his book to mislead people to not realize how attractive Devi is, because he's trying to keep her for himself and make people think
Dan's
that she's
this, like,
a fucking
personally.
ginger.
You really don't want her to be.
Like, really
She's
doesn't
not a
want Devi
ginger.
to be
It's
a
a
ginger.
bullshit
Yeah,
lie. And I'm sick of gingers trying to steal strawberry blondes for themselves. No, they're not one of you. You guys are your own thing.
Jesus. I did like one part that we kind of skipped over, where she talks about, and actually Fitz kind of talked about it, but she's talking about how she is attracted. She does this quite a bit, where she kind of pulls compliments from Kvothe, where she says, "Plus I'm cute as a button," and he says, "Yeah, you're shiny as a new penny. No man can hope to stand against you." "Some women have trouble keeping their feet as well," she said. Her grin changed slightly, moving from adorable to impish, and then well past the border into wicked. And what does Kvothe do? Not having the slightest idea how to respond to that, I moved in a safer direction.
Yeah.
"I'm afraid I need to borrow 4 times." Like, dude, what? Like, she's ready to talk about some fun stuff here. Some interesting things.
What girls?
Look.
Yeah, details. Give me some.
Pictures?
Just, little bit. Just give me picture.
But that's where me and Kvothe are, like, where I don't have much similarity to Kvothe in his approach to women, because obviously there was a door that was wide open and he just immediately closed it instead of walking through. I'm walking through that door.
Yeah.
And then when she's like 40 talents and I'll take you to bed, it would have been like, you can keep the 40 talents. Let's get to that bed.
Yeah. I think, yes, there should have been some negotiating there. It's like, okay, so let's
negotiate
talk
it.
about
Well, I'm going to have to see what it's like in the bed first.
I don't even need the 40 talents. I mean, like, you had me at bed.
He should have, but he should have still been like, all right, so you're not getting in the archives. However, and then pull, like, some Felorian tactic where it's like, well, let's see how you stack up against the rest of the world. Well, never
luckily
been with anybody else.
Luckily for Auri, Kvothe is her protector and not me. Because sorry about your luck, Auri.
Jesus.
The joke's on Dan, though, because as soon as he got in there, he'd realize Devi is a true redhead down below.
Strawberry blonde, man. Strawberry blonde. It's canon. It's in the book. It says she has strawberry blonde in this chapter. It's canon. I don't care what Kvothe's trying to muddy the waters.
That is kind of funny that he does say fiery types after. Yeah. I remember that kind of confused me because that's funny because I do remember actually going back and forth because originally it is strawberry blonde, but then as you read through because of this,
it says strawberry blonde in this chapter, and then he tries to steal her for one of his own. Man, these fucking gingers they're a tricky bunch. You got to watch out for them.
Manipulative, aren't they, Dan?
Yep.
They are manipulative.
Tim knows all about
it.
But
so this was a really good example where he does do the, well, I could buy this. Well, I could buy this. And he just keeps doing it as she's ratcheting up the totals. I love how quickly how it plays out where he's in his head and she's just firing at him. Man, it's great. It's great. But so 10 talents, buy the information outright, not alone. If I get caught in the stacks, never learned it from you. And then he's like, new clothes, a loot case, paper, gloves for winter, and then 20 talents and guild rates on any loans you want in the future. Pretty good deal. And then he's like, worry-free tuition that for half a year, pursue my own projects in the fishery rather than having to slay away deck lamps, tailored clothes, fresh fruit, use a laundry rather than wash his clothes himself. And then boom, the 40 talents, guild rates,
40
and I'll
talents.
take you to bed. Yeah, she nailed it. She fucking doubled.
Yeah.
She went from 10 to 20 to 40. And you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Because you're already getting the vibe like, whoa, she really wants in there. And then you're like, oh, shit. This is one of those moments that, like, if you were negotiating for something, you're like, I'm never giving up this baseball card. It's never going to happen. Clearly, I missed something. This is worth a shitload more than I thought.
That's when you can negotiate terms just for listening to terms to a deal. Like, all right, I'm gonna need 12 of those baseball cards for us to even talk about giving you up my Bo Jackson rookie.
Well, so I love that you said Bo Jackson rookie. That was the one. I ate a dog bone for a Bo Jackson rookie card. That's how much I wanted it.
Like a milk bone?
Like 11, 12. Yeah, milk bone. One of the big ones. But yeah, it's interesting. And that's what could have happened here. He said, you know what? I'm going to need you to pump the brakes. We're going to talk about it. Let's check out that bed. We'll talk about this.
Pump the brakes.
Uh-huh.
No, it's
Let me see how good that
bed is. I'll 40 talents and I'll take you to bed. I'm like, what were you doing? Why your pants are already off? Like, okay, deal, sold. Stop selling.
I love the idea that he's wearing like breakaways. Just rips everything off.
Yeah, he just rips the breakaway.
Old Commando Dan ready to go.
Oh, shit, yeah. Just fucking immediately just rips him off. Like, oh, all right. Well, deal.
Got him.
Classic. Yeah, but that's all I got on old Denna and Devi. It's a great chapter.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, then we'll move on to chapter 11, Haven. In this chapter, Kvothe meets Auri in the courtyard. While they're exchanging gifts, Elodin comes out from around the corner. And we soon learn that Elodin has known Auri for some time. And he learns that Kvothe has named his little moon fae Auri. After dinner and singing, the two leave, and while walking, Kvothe threatens Elodin not to alert the authorities to her existence. He agrees, but questions Kvothe about the name he chose for Auri. Before Kvothe can give a good answer, Elodin invites him to join his naming class. And after learning Kvothe is still banned from the archives, pays a visit to Master Lauren and has him admitted. The next day, Kvothe pays his admission fees and signs up for classes.
Yeah, this is one of those chapters I've been looking forward to getting into because some of the things I've touched on with Auri, now I'll more fully delve into. Because I mentioned in the last episode how after Auri went and saw Kvothe from his, in his room when he was in the midst of the plumb bob experience, and he's crying about his family, and she takes care of him. In between that point and this point is the slow regard of silent things. That's the time frame when this happens. So these gifts that she gives Kvothe are from that story. And so, like, it starts off with, Auri wasn't expecting me, but this was the first place I'd met her, and on clear nights, she sometimes came out to watch the stars. I checked to make sure the classrooms overlooking the courtyard were dark and empty, then I brought my lute and began to tune it. So he says Auri wasn't expecting me, but she was. She says it explicitly. And so, before we go, I'll bring up like the parts in her book where it shows that she does have some sort of, clairvoyance or knowledge. It was, she ran toward me, her bare feet skipping lightly across the tar, her hair blowing behind her. I heard you, she said. She came close. I heard you all the way down in vaults. I seem to remember, I said slowly, that I was going to play music for someone. Me! She held both her hands close to her chest, grinning. She moved from foot to foot, almost dancing with eagerness. Play for me! I've been as patient as 2 stones together, she said. You're just in time. I could not be as patient as 3 stones. And then he talks about, I brought you 3 things. And she's like, how traditional, she said, grinning. You're quite the proper young gentleman tonight. And so he gives her bees, he said, he gives her the bottle of beer that were made from bees and brewers in Braden, which I always think is interesting is, these mentions of Braden, and then, obviously I think Braden's an extremely important figure, whether he's Master Ash or he's not. I think he's obviously an important figure. So the fact that there's a Braden beer and there's brewers in Braden, and then he chose the name Braden, there might be something to that. I don't know what it is, but I would be surprised if he's just putting that in there and there's nothing to it. I think when we read book 3, we'll see some kind of connection between him and what they're mentioning there. But
probably the beer that he got from the Aeolian the other night too, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that's where he got it. Yeah. But yeah, and then he gave her the barley bread, and she's like, you also got the 3 B's. So he gave her the B's, Brewers, and Braden. He went with the alliteration there. So obviously, Fitz gets his alliteration. He gives her smoked salmon because he thinks she can't get meat, which is not actually the case. She could if she wanted it, but he gives her the salmon. It has a harp instead of a heart, and she looked down at it. And no wonder it looked so surprised. She's got some hilarious quirks of personality. But let me pull up my notes on A Slow Regard of Silent Things, because I think these are significant into understanding what's going on in this scene. So there's a scene where she is carrying her gear. She's finally, come to the conclusion that this gear is a fulcrum, and it's an important piece. She feels like she finally understands this thing, and she starts taking it around the under thing, and she drops it, and it breaks. It shatters to pieces, and she's scared to look at it. And then you get slowly Auri's face broke too. It broke into a grin so wide you'd think she ate the moon. Oh yes, fulcrum had broken, but that wasn't wrong. Eggs break, horses break, waves break. Of course he broke. How else could someone so all-certain centered let his perfect answers out into the world? Some things were just too true to stay. Fulcrum lay in 3 bright pieces, 3 jagged shapes with 3 teeth each. No longer a pin struck hard into the heart of things. He had become 3 things. If anything, her grin grew wider then. Oh, of course. It wasn't something she was looking for. No wonder all her searching was for naught. No wonder everything was canted wrong. It was 3 things. He was bringing 3, and so must she. 3 perfect threes would be her gift for him. Ari's brow furrowed, and she turned to look up the stairs. The gear had struck the 7th step. Fulcrum had shattered it quite flagrantly. Not 7, then. Another thing she had been wrong about. He wasn't coming on the 7th day. He would visit her today. Some other time that knowing might have sent her spinning badly out of true. It would have set her all a sweat and tangled beyond all hope, but not today, not with the truth so sweetly set before her, not with everything so sudden plain for her to see. 3 things was easy if you knew the way of it. Auri was so whelmed it took her several minutes before she realized she was standing, or rather, she realized that the stairway finally knew where it was. She knew what it was, where it belonged. It had a name. She was in Ninewise. So she had been thinking that Kvothe is coming in 7 days throughout the whole story of Slow Regard of Silent Things. And then she breaks this and she looks at it and she realizes that he's going to bring her 3 gifts and that he's coming today and not tomorrow. And we get at the beginning of this chapter, Auri did not know, in Kvothe's mind, Auri did not know I was coming today. But she did. She says it right there. She realized he was coming today without any knowledge from Kvothe. It was from this thing shattering, and she looked at it, and the world presented her with knowledge she hadn't seen before. She knew he was going to give her 3 gifts, and she knew he was coming today. That's significant information that clearly tells you that Auri is something different. She's something special. She has power.
So there's no other clue than that. I mean, the what was fulcrum?
It was like
it wasn't
gear.
a thing.
It was a gear she found.
Yeah, in the water. That whole scene was strange as well. Her bringing that up to the surface, but so there's no other answer or clue to it other than she's clairvoyant. However she saw that, we don't know. She just saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand her power, but she's clearly has power because there's no, how else would she know these things? Like this is not information that, she heard it, she spied it off of someone. This is information that it would be impossible to know, yet she did know it, and she's right.
Was there any clue as to why she thought he was coming that day?
No, I didn't make any just occurs what I read. Her. Like I don't know what her power is, but she's obviously got power because she's right.
One of the things I remembered a feeling from her book was she seems to come into tune with things, and you sort of mentioned that in what you read there, that it's she's always, it seems like she's always sort of grasping and trying to get things to fit, and then once they fit, she gets clairvoyance or something. I don't know exactly either. I mean, but I remember getting that feeling like she creates a harmony of things, and and that's kind of what she drives at, is trying, kind of everybody in a way, to trying to create a harmony within how they perceive things and how they interpret or interact with the world. And when she does it, she seems to get a clairvoyance, or things fit the way they're supposed to fit. And then things happen the way they should happen for her, right? Or
it seemed like when she
is the now coming or whatever.
What I gathered was when she had manipulated things into certain positions, it eventually, at some point, when she manipulated it in the right way, she would get a feeling of knowing that it's right and other information from there.
Well, you get like in the beginning, it gives you a sense of like someone who's OCD. That's what it seems like. But then the fact that when this happens and you get that OCD thing, but it gives her knowledge of things that she couldn't possibly have knowledge of. That he's going to bring her 3 gifts, that he's going to show up today. And this is information that she could not get, from just looking at that. This is not information we would be able to look at a gear break and we're like, oh, it turns out Tim's coming over today and he's going to bring me 3 gifts. Like, no, it's a magical quality. So then that takes you back where you're like, well, shit, it's not OCD. She's just different. She sees the world through different eyes, and she has a power to be able to see things. And then it takes on a new weight. And then you start looking at like, okay, so what exactly is going on? And then you get more information from her that I think is very pertinent to book 3. Is like you get from port, she brought his fine teacup. She brought the leather book, uncut, unread, and utterly unknown. She brought the small stone figurine. All 3 of these she set upon the shelf beside his bed, and he would have some beauty of his own. And just like that, she had a gift for him, a safe place he could stay. So that's her first gift, is she sees he's going to need a safe place to stay. And then, after all that he had done, didn't he deserve fine and princely gifts? That line, I think, is important, and also bringing her to, that she is a princess. Like that, there's a lot of interactions in this scene with Kvothe and Elodin that lend further weight to it. And also, she's thinking of a gift for him, and doesn't he deserve a princely gift? That's just how her mind works, so it lends some weight to that. But when she's making the gifts for him, and she goes into the second gift, she's gonna make him a candle. She's like, she knew the proper way for Laurel. So she's thinking of like what she could put in this candle to make it. And she's like, she knew the proper way for laurel. She knew the patient way of things. Grind and boil the waxy fruit. Sieve off the dottle. Boil again and clarify and cool to separate the wax. Even with the proper tools, it would have been hours of work. Hours and hours. But he was coming soon. She knew. She knew she had no time for it. And even if she had all day, there would be principles inside the wax that were not right for him. He was plumb full of anger and despair. And pride. Well, he had that in a sure and certain surfeit. There were ways to factor those things out. She knew them all. She knew the turning circles of calcinate. She could sublime and draw. She could isolate a non-exclusionary principle as well as any who had ever turned their hand to work the craft. But this was not a time for begging favors from the moon. Not now. She could not rush, and neither could she be delayed. Some things were simply too important. It was just as Mandrag said. 9/10 of alchemy was chemistry, and 9/10 of chemistry was waiting. The other piece, the slender 10th part of a 10th, the heart of alchemy, was something Auri had learned long ago. She studied it before she came to understand the true shape of the world, before she knew the key to being small. Oh yes, she learned her craft. She knew its hidden roads and secrets, all the subtle, sweet, and coaxing ways that made one skilled within the art. So many different ways. Some folk inscribed, described. There were symbols, signifiers, buying and the binding, formulae, machineries of math. But now she knew much more than that. She knew so much of what she thought was truth before was merely tricks, no more than clever ways of speaking to the world. They were a bargaining, a plea, a call, a cry, but underneath there was a secret deep within the hidden heart of things. Mandrag never told her that. She did not think he knew. Auri found that secret for herself. She knew the true shape of the world. All else was shadow and the sound of distant drums. Auri nodded to herself. Her tiny face was grave. She scooped the waxy fine ground fruit into a sieve and set the sieve atop a gather jar. She closed her eyes. She drew her shoulders back. She took a slow and steady breath. There was a tension in the air, a weight. There was no wind. She did not speak. The world grew stretched and tight. Auri drew a breath and opened her eyes. Auri was urchin small. Her tiny feet upon the stone were bare. Auri stood, and in the circle of her golden hair she grinned and brought the weight of her desire down full upon the world. And all things shook, and all things knew her will, and all things bent to please her. That's massively significant because that is a clear sign that she is a shaper. Like, she did not have time to make the candle and go through, the proper steps of, the chemistry and the alchemy to make the candle. And she's like, I could make it. And even if I had the time, there would be principles in it that I wouldn't, that are not right for him. And, to pull them out would even take more time. And so, like, she just doesn't have the time. So when she doesn't have the time, she's like, man, fuck it. I got to use my magic. And she does.
Dude, so that's huge on so many levels because it tells us what she's capable of. Also, it tells me in terms of her character that she's of the, however it's attainable, she's immensely powerful because of her capability, and she knows it. But also, we get to see, as plain as we can possibly see what shaping is and how it's done. And obviously it's still very ethereal, but there it is. That's her doing it. Yeah, it's that book's great, man. It's so it's very lyrical and very visual, and it's tremendous. It's her character's so interesting, man, and that helps me sort of see. So build out of that and sort of picture Ajax or whoever, Ajax creating the Fae. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like picture that, and then picture. It's tremendous, man. It's fucking great. It's hard. It's hard to verbalize what where that sends my mind. Rothfuss is killing it.
Yeah, I'll double down on you there, Tim. Everything it opens up a huge door to something that we've learned zero about. We can all talk about what the things that they've spoken of, the shapers and shaping the Fae, and pretty much zip, that's it. But if you delve into that book and Auri, you realize that there's a whole other side to this magic that we haven't learned yet, and it's the one that we haven't learned yet seems to be more powerful than anything we have learned.
Well, what's really cool also is that what this does for us as well is Auri is not just enigmatic. There's reasons behind what she does. She does all these things for a reason, and they're not just quirky. She is quirky, but she's quirky for a reason, and there's reasons behind what she does. It's great, and it's the funny thing about Kvothe as well. His capabilities get built out by what she's capable of, because many times it just seems like he's playing along, but it's his sleeping mind. I feel like she awakens in him that creativity, and that action in itself awakens his sleeping mind to then create and to sort of match her in a way. And I think yeah, she's massive. It builds her out so much more. She's not just this enigmatic character who's on top of things, and he just kind of spends time with and goes back to his world. She looms huge. And
hey, Dan,
I guess she's the key. I mean, she's the key for us to understand at least and build out what the shaping's going to be. And I have to assume we're going to get some more of this in book 3 and get more of the Fae. But all of that mystery and that ethereal quality, that what you just read is huge, and sort of building that out and making it more tangible, or as tangible as it could possibly be, I guess.
And so along those lines of book 3 and the possibilities, Dan, I'd like to ask you to speculate on the possibilities of what this could mean.
Well, that's the next part. I mean, it's another long section, but I think it's important to go through it, because you get the fact that you see that she was right. He was going to bring 3 gifts. She was right that he was going to come today. And then we see her shape. Like, she wanted to make this candle and it was going to take hours, but she was able to make it exactly how she wants immediately. And that's magic. And so, like, her knowledge, the thing that it most compares to me is like, when Scarpy talks about Celatos was able to look into Haliax, and he knew that Haliax had tried to kill himself, and he saw all the pain and despair in him, like he could see his past. Or Elodin is able to look into Kvothe, and it seems like he knows things that he's gone through with the 5 spades have been laid down, you have 3 in your hands, how many spades is that? And there's those kind of moments. And then also with the story that Hespe tells the group about Jax and the moon, when Jax goes and sees the hermit on top of the in the mouth of that cave, like he's able to like listen to inanimate objects, and he can hear them and hear what they want and what they desire. And Auri has that type of quality where it's like a deep magic. But here's why all that is important. I think it's established that she's got some kind of clairvoyance, and she has magical powers with shaping. But then why all that's important is you get first his clever candle, all Taberlin, all warm and stuffed with poetry and dreams. Second was a proper place, a shelf where he could put his heart, a bed to sleep. Nothing could harm him here. And the third thing, well, she ducked her face and felt a slow flush climb her cheeks, stalling. Auri reached out for the small stone soldier sitting on his bed shelf. Strange, she'd never noticed on the design upon the shield. It was so faint, but yes, there was the tower wrapped in a tongue of flame. No mere soldier, It was a small stone Amir. Peering closer, Auri spied slight lines upon his arms as well. She did not know how she could have missed these things before. It was a tiny Siri day. Of course it was. It would hardly be a proper present for him otherwise. She kissed the tiny figurine and set it back upon the shelf. Still, there was a third thing. This time, Auri did not blush. She smiled. She washed her face and hands and feet. Then she skipped quickly into port and opened up the holly bottle. With 2 fingers, Auri lifted out a single seed, the tiny berry bright as blood despite green Foxen's light. Auri scampered off to Van and peered into the mirror. She licked her lips and pressed the berry up against them, daubing it from left to right. Then she smoothed the berry back and forth across them. She eyed her reflection. She looked no different than before. Her lips were palest pink. She smiled. Auri returned to Mantle. She washed her face and hands and feet, excitement bubbling inside of her. Auri looked at his bed, his blanket, his bed shelf with as tiny a mirror waiting there to guard him. It was perfect. It was right. It was a start. He would need a place someday, and it was all here ready for him. Someday he would come, and she would tend to him. Someday he would be the one all eggshell, hollow, empty in the dark. And then, Auri smiled, not for herself, no, not ever for herself. She must stay small and tucked away, well hidden from the world. But for him, it was a different thing entire. For him, she would bring forth all her desire. She would call upon her cunning and her craft. Then she would make a name for him. Auri spun about 3 times. She smelled the air. She grinned. All around her, everywhere was proper true. She knew exactly where she was. She was exactly where she ought to be. The fact that she is so confident that he's going to need a place, that he's going to come down there, he's going to be broken, and she's going to give him a new name. If that doesn't fucking happen, I will be shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to go to war, and she's going to put them back together. And then Devi's going to show up and be a threat to Auri, and then Kvothe's going to battle again. But whatever. I mean, that's... Yeah, I think that's foretelling us precisely what to expect, at least a good piece of book 3. And it's Auri is accepting this role.
I mean, it could be, that he has her change his true name, and she's a shaper, and she changes his true name, and that's why he doesn't have his access to his Alar, and that's why he's Coat, and he's in the bar, and he's in the situation he is. He asked for this, but, now that he's got it, it's destroyed him.
What did she put on her lips?
She put a berry, and she gives him one of her gifts is she gives him a kiss on the forehead.
Right. No, I
so
didn't
to
know
her
if
it was significant. I don't know what it did, but to her it was significant.
It was very ceremonious. Like,
and he made sure that you didn't think it was like lipstick. I got that clearly because her lips were exactly the same color.
Yeah.
So it must have been some kind of a. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know exactly
obviously something
what it is,
her.
but she obviously thinks it's significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they do that in The Wise Man's Fear, the scene of, basically she's like, let's move in together, and Kvothe tears up, which and then it's very ceremonial, man. Like, and we have that, like you said, repeatedly, the proper young gentleman, and she's in how she is with Elodin, and how she kind of, well, we'll get to that, but it's a very interesting. Well, yeah, because of the shaping, it does almost feel like she's putting. I mean, in a way, it's almost like, well, this is her way of welcoming him. But because of the shaping and everything that's involved, you have to kind of wonder: did she put something on it? Did she?
Well, does she fundamentally change who he is? And that's why he's so fucking broken and distraught. I mean, she could have. She was doing a good thing for him, but that's why he's waiting to die, because he can't be himself again.
I'm more just talking about the kiss on the forehead. Oh. I'm wondering what happens here. It does something extraordinary.
It seems like she thinks she's doing something that's protecting him. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you know what, Tim?
That's what she's accepting as her role. She's saying, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to stay here. I'm going to create this little, nook for him, and I'm going to stay here until he needs me.
And like the candle is like, supposed to give him good dreams. And, she was like, he's got an abundance of anger and this will help with that. And so like he's in the midst of the plumb bob. And so like this candle could have been like a remedy or, something that would cure him. I can't remember if he uses the candle. So like I'm going to have to look for that because I don't, for whatever reason, I always forget to pay attention to that when I go through it. But now I'll have to make a concerted effort to pay attention.
I'm sure Fitz noticed that he got to finally use his pocket that is for candles. That was nice. It was just waiting this whole time.
Hey Tim, the what you were bringing, something just occurred to me when you were talking about that ceremonial is that the ceremonial nature of what she did, and us talking about her being royalty and acting in that way. It's almost like she dubbed him with that kiss. He bent over. She said, "Bend down." Or did he have to bend down? Either way.
Well, he felt Kvothe says, or were in his mind, I closed my eyes and bent at the waist, wondering if she had made me a hat as well. She says, now close your eyes and bend down so I can give you your second present. And then he bends it, he's waiting, wondering if she's giving him Imperial's poontang to wear as a hat. And instead, I felt her hands on either side of my face. Then she gave me a tiny, delicate kiss in the middle of my forehead. And, it kind of made me, it almost made me feel like, like you're being knighted or something,
So in Catholic tradition, and I think in like England too, that it's like a blessing. When you touch someone in the middle of their forehead, it's like a blessing. So
she's unlocking
not so
that
much
third eye.
Yeah, it's I don't know. You said ceremonial, and that's what clicked for me. All this stuff. So I don't know. I mean, that's.
I'm interested in the candle. I'm interested in this as well to kind of be more sensitive to what could have possibly, even a small nuance of change within Kvothe, if something could have been unlocked or bestowed upon him or what. It's so funny, man, because, the amount of times I've read the books and as I've slowly, gradually continued to realize there's more to Auri. I mean, you always know, even from the first read through, there's more to her. But there are all these quirks. You're not really sure how exactly to take her. And now it feels like, just with our conversation today, now it feels like even more she is making huge changes. She's exacting massive change in influence. I'm starting to assume within the story, and I do wonder what the candle foretells, because I can't remember. I do remember the candle, but I don't remember.
She thinks of it as like something that's going to protect him, to give him good dreams, to help with his anger and that kind of thing. She's looking at these gifts as like remedies, not as powerful weapons or something like that. It's more like remedies, protections, that kind of thing.
So in today's terms, does she own a little bodega that sells crystals and sage?
Yeah, she's definitely selling fucking healing crystals.
Worry stones.
So
everybody's mocking the people that go there, and they're like, "No, I'm telling you, I bought this fucking healing crystal. I was paraplegic. Now I'm fucking running marathons." Like, oh, okay, yeah, sure you did, buddy. Like, no,
it
dude,
could be as simple as
this girl's. I don't believe in magic crystals. Her crystals are fucking magic, man. I'm telling you.
Everybody's like, yeah, dude, Jim has completely lost his mind. He swears on crystals and
He goes to this shop downtown, calls the lady who owns the place his little moon fae. It's really weird.
I was to say, dude, I'm telling you, ever since I started burning sage in my house, I'm so regular. Like, my bowels are on point. Ever since, man. Ever since. Had all these problems. Everything's much better.
So in light of all this stuff, I suddenly find it way more interesting that Elodin is there and it's seemingly that he's been invited by Auri.
No, definitely not that. But hold on, before we get there, I just a couple things. One, when he's like, "What's inside of it for the candle?" She's like, "Happy dreams. I put them there for you." And he's like, "Did you make this yourself?" She nodded and gave a delighted grin. "I did. I'm terribly clever." Not only one, we know like the happy dreams. She's not, again, like we talk about, like with her wordplay, she's not joking. She's like, these dreams, this candle will give you happy dreams. This will fix your dreams. And he's just like, thinks it's a game. And then when he's like, "Did you make this for me?" And she's like, "I did. I'm terribly clever." He doesn't realize how clever she fucking is. Like, she fucking did. She shaped that candle for him. She used magic to make that candle, and he has no fucking clue. So,
well, I like the way that he says it, though. He does say, or at least he thinks it. I turned the candle over in my hands, a suspicion forming. I remember, like, reading that. In my mind, I do remember feeling like he had an appreciation. Like, there's more to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just to say that, a suspicion forming. That's saying.
Well, you would think, like, that's like, where the hell is she getting candles? Like,
well, yeah,
she's not going to shops.
Well, yeah, and then also, I mean, if it's newly formed, I mean, again, I'm not a fucking candle maker, but you feel like you'd be able to kind of tell, like, something that happened. Be like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
Now, when I make candles, like, I mean, you can't tell any difference between, like, store-bought, you go to Walmart and get a candle, you get one of my freshly made candles, same thing.
There's no way.
Better even.
Well, I've seen I don't make candles. I'm just saying, like, if I did, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that is consistent with your approach to things. So, yeah. Okay. So, but yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, after she kissed him on the forehead, he kind of cries a little bit. "You are special to me." Seriously, her face grave. Like, so she's not, she's being very, very formal. "I want you to know I will always take care of you." She reached out tentatively, wiped at his cheeks. "No, none of that tonight. This is your third present. If things are bad, you can come and stay with me in the underthing. It is nice there. You will be safe." So, she's like, "Let's move in together."
I love the two. He's like, "Thank you, Auri. I said as soon as I was able. You were special to me, too." "Of course I am," she said matter-of-factly. "I'm as lovely as the moon."
Yeah, I love those.
There it goes again.
But those those qualities about her make me like her so much, because you feel like there's so many qualities about her that you get the feeling that she's like not a victim, but she's at risk of sorts, because she could be locked in Haven. There's these risks involved. She's not really feeding herself that well. At least we're getting that from Kvothe's mind. But it's those little things where it's like, dude, she has high self-esteem, which is kind of, it's a nice, again, build out for the character. I love when she has those little moments where she talks like that. I've never read a character like her. She's fucking great.
Yeah, she's super original. And we also get a good nugget of information from the slow regard of silent things on her relationship with the moon. It seems to be that her fear of the moon is when she's out near Haven, where the moon is lighting up the sky, where someone might be able to see her and bring her to Haven. Because when Haven is out of sight and the moon is watching her, she thinks she gets comfort out of it. She feels like it's a old friend. And when she's making stuff down in the underthing, like, she goes to a place where the moon shines through the grate, and she appreciates the moon. It's only when it is lighting her and making her seen underneath where Haven is right within her sight, that is her fear. So I think that the fear is the same reason she's not going out during the day she doesn't want to be seen. She don't want to be carted off to Haven. I think that's where her fear of the moon comes in. Not specifically the moon, but what the moon shining down on her could do to her.
Yeah, being seen. It's funny, the more you sort of drill down on her, the more practical she becomes. But I was going to say, do you think she's been in Haven? Do you think she escaped from Haven?
I don't think so. I mean, who knows? But I get the impression that she hasn't been, but she fears. She knows she's cracked, and she knows that's where
she knows how she appears. She knows how she appears to other people.
Yeah,
at least. Yeah,
so I think it's just the fear.
Dude. I love. By the way, I didn't even mention it. I love the Cyrodiil thing, man. Like, I gotta read. I keep saying I'm gonna read the Slow Regard of Silent Things again, but it was so long ago that I read it. Like, a lot of that stuff missed me.
Well, the great thing is, like, on the Audible, you can put it at like 1.4 speed, and Rothfuss reads so slow that when you put it at like 1.4 speed, it's like reading normal, and so you'll knock that book out in like 2 hours. It's short. I know he read super short. I because I knew I was going to bring up a lot of this stuff today. I just read it, and I read it in like 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's short. Yeah, I mean, it's a novella, so I remember enough of it being short. It's just not fresh in my mind. But I'm a little bit surprised. I didn't know Rothfuss could read, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's like a Rembrandt. This guy.
He's a fucking Renaissance man over here.
Double threat, dude.
But yeah, no. Then Elodin comes in, and it wasn't like she definitely didn't. No one expected him. He's like, before I could respond, Elodin stepped around a large brick chimney as casually as if he were out for an afternoon stroll. The three of us stared at each other for a moment, each of us startled in our own way. Elodin and I were surprised, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw Auri grow perfectly still, like a deer ready to spring away to safety. So, like, none of them were expecting to run up on each other. They were all like, whoop, froze, and then interacted with each other from there. So, no, she was not expecting him.
Kvothe goes into such a protective mode. From this point forward, because I mean we're in his mind, but it's just he just keeps reiterating like he's trying to do, and then he's just telling Elodin and trying to lead him into like I love the dynamic between him and Elodin, because we don't know how much Elodin knows, we don't know how much time he spent with Auri already. So when Kvothe is like telling him what to do and then trying to be tactful at the same time, it's a really interesting like imbalance that goes on there. I just always love when Elodin's in the scene. He's such a wild card, and just with everything he's capable of and his backstory that we don't really know wholeheartedly, or we don't know, all the details of it. It's all just big, interesting events and what he's capable of, and when he talks to people, when he looks into people, man. But he becomes much more real in this scene,
Yeah.
The one part that did you guys get the sense when and I'm jumping ahead here, but when it happens about three or four times, the first time when Auri has run back into the other thing and comes back out, and Kvothe is nervous as hell, and Elodin puts his hand on Kvothe's shoulder and like, calm down, dude. She's coming. Calm the fuck down.
Yeah, he's like then shaking and shit.
So then again, when Kvothe threatens him, and then again shortly thereafter when Kvothe's like, "Hey, she needs some stuff." Like, I don't know. It's just me being a nerd, but all three of those times, like, I got this sense of, because I'm endeared to Auri at this point, and so knowing that Elodin's not gonna rat her out. He's not there to put her in Haven. He is going to get her the things that she needs. I'm like, get this sense of relief and like, like this really good feeling that Elodin's going to help her out.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it's tough to Because you lose that feeling after you've gone through it a bunch, because that's exactly how it goes down. You already know that's the fact. But
that's a good
like
point.
If you take yourself outside of it and you're going through it the first time, you would have that nervousness that Elodin's a wild card and he could, put her in Haven, and so you don't know that he's not going to do that.
That's a good point to bring up, because I do, once you've read through it, you forget. There are things that get lost on the rereads. There's so much to be gained that doesn't matter. It's outweighed many times over as far as I'm concerned. But that is one element that does get sort of lost a little bit. But yeah, it's a good point.
One of the other things I think that lends a lot of credence towards her being a princess is she goes, Master Elodin. Auri dipped one bare foot behind the other and tugged the edges of her ragged dress in a tiny curtsy. Elodin remained in moon-cast shadow of the tall brick chimney. He made a curiously formal bow in return. The fact that Kvothe described it as a curiously formal bow, I think, stands out, especially when you start to consider that she's a princess. I think Elodin has known her for years. I think Elodin knows who she is, and the fact that he's given her like a formal bow, I think, is another clue that she is the princess. At least one of them.
Yeah, I get that impression as well, that Elodin does know who she is. And he kind of hints at it through that bow, but also when he says, "Well, check out the big brain on Kvothe, giving her that name," like kind of coming close to the truth, right? I like, these are really, really nice little hints that Rothfuss gives us, those little reveals to pull something out of, which is great. But I love this I love really all of it with Elodin, how they sort of are pitted against each other and they're all being careful. I love her check on him, man, where he's like,
I was
"Did you bring
something
something for Kvothe?"
I love
you didn't?
Auri's interactions with Elodin more than, Kvothe and Elodin in this situation, just because, we see Elodin just making everybody uncomfortable and on their toes and put them back on their heels, and then Auri comes fucking just strolling in with Elodin and he's on his heels. He doesn't know what to do and he's kind of off kilter, and it's the first time we've seen him be in those shoes versus, he makes everybody like that. So it's funny to see.
I really like Auri in this position. She's dictating terms. She's like, "This is how it goes. You fucked up. You didn't bring..." So, like, when she doesn't pour him a second drink, like, all of those little... Like, she has this thing in her mind where she's like, no, not tonight.
Not tonight. Have you brought anything for Kvothe? This seemed to catch Elodin off his stride. He stood awkwardly for a moment, arms outstretched. "I'm afraid I haven't," he said, "but I don't imagine Kvothe has brought anything for me either." Auri's eyes narrowed, and she gave a tiny frown, fierce with disapproval. "Kvothe has brought music," she said sternly, "which is for everyone." Elodin paused again, and I have to admit I enjoyed seeing him discomfited by someone else's behavior for once. He turned and made a half bow in my direction. "My apologies," he said. I made a gracious gesture. "Think nothing of it."
I love that.
Auri's immediately... Auri's not having it anyway. She like you said, she's dictating terms. So then she lays out how this thing's going to go, and then she's like, "And then Kvothe's going to play music, and you're going to stay." And then, he does say that she makes it a question, but she commands it first.
No, I love it, man. It's like she's running this little show here. It's, again, goes to the formality and the fact that she's in charge of shit. Speaks to, like, her being royalty. She's not there for other people. Other people are there for her.
Yeah.
This is like, if this was what she was brought up as, this would be totally normal. This is how it works. But I love her. Thank you. Like, he gives her the sinus fruit and she's, "Thank you kindly," makes another small curtsy. "Now you may join us if you like. And if you behave, you may stay and listen to Kvothe play afterward." And then she does, tilt her head a bit, making a question. But I love that. Like, this dude, like, was running the fucking show at the university. But I love that. "And if you behave, and you behave now, I'll kick you the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's great. It's such a great, again, just like build out for her character in terms of where her head's at. It doesn't matter who's there. This is her world. Like the underthing and on top of things, this is her world, and he's butting in as well. So it's like, if you want to take place, you need to know your place. Yeah, it's great.
Another thing is that he gives her a Sinus fruit, which Rothfuss brings up, and there's a scene where Kvothe is with Florian, and he's talking about all the different things that he learned during the time he was with Florian, about like all these different little facts that he was picking up from her. He's like, I learned 1,000 facts. You might think that's a lot, but 1,000 facts does you no good when you're talking about learning an entire culture. And one of the things she taught him was that the gift of a single Celis fruit. He's like, I learned you must never look at one of the thing with both eyes at once, and that a gift of a single Sinus fruit is considered a terrible insult if given to one of the Belladari. So the fact that is in this book when he's with Florian. Obviously, he could give a million different facts. He could make up whatever he wants, but he picked a Sinus fruit. Devi's place smelled of Sinus fruit. Elodin gives Auri a Sinus fruit. I don't know what all that shit means. It could just mean that it's Sinus fruit season, and so everybody's fucking walking around with fucking Sinus fruits in their pockets. And
the fact that she does take.
I was just going to say, Kvothe says that it's expensive. It's basically something he can never afford.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that she actually does take offense to it, like, what? Okay, this is a Sinus fruit for me. What'd you bring Kvothe? It's not arbitrary. What you brought up.
I don't know what it means, but I'd be surprised if there's no significance to it. I don't know if it'll be like something big. It could be just something like Elodin is testing her to see if she, he doesn't fully know who she is or understand, like he's trying to figure shit out. Like, is she one of the Fae? Like something like that. Like maybe if I give her this gift and if she's, offended, it'll give me some knowledge. Could be like that. I don't know.
Well, I don't know what,
but I think there's something there.
What that thing was that you said to people who get offended, but it sounds to me like Ari's one of them.
It could be, but she doesn't seem to be like super offended by it, so I don't.
No, she got offended. I think it was more. It was more, what did
she
you
even says it is lovely.
It was more that situation.
She's like, it is lovely, she declared, but Kvothe's things are lovelier still. And Elodin was great. He's like, that stands to reason, Elodin said. Yeah. I expect Kvothe is a nicer person than I am. That goes without saying, Auri said primly. I just want an entire book of Elodin and Auri.
Yeah. I would happily read.
That's the book about all-time greatest buddy cop story ever. Like two people that make everybody extremely uncomfortable, but also make each other extremely uncomfortable,
and are extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah,
in ways that we can't even fathom. Yeah. I love that. I love that little part as well. Yeah, I kind of wonder. One thing that occurred to me was the bringing of the Sinus fruit and what you just brought up. It kind of feels like George Costanza bringing oranges to the Japanese television show.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah,
you've forgotten what it's like to not have oranges. This fucking guy with the oranges.
They don't have access to oranges.
They live in New York City. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's funny.
But then we get the scene where Kvothe. It's such a great moment. Like, just the intensity of the situation and Elodin's reaction to it is fantastic, but like she's my friend, I said slowly. He nodded. That much is obvious, and I don't have enough friends that I could bear to lose one, I said. Not her. Promise me you won't tell anyone about her or bundle her off to Haven. It's not the right place for her. I swallowed against the dryness in my throat. I need you to promise me. Elodin tilted his head to one side. I'm hearing an or else, he said, amusement in his voice. Even though you're not actually saying it, I need you to promise you or else. One corner of my mouth quirked up in a wry little smile. One corner of his mouth quirked up in a wry little smile. When he smiled, I felt a flash of anger mingled with anxiety and fear. It was followed by a sudden hot taste of plum and nutmeg in my mouth, and I became very conscious of my knife I had strapped to my thigh underneath my pants. I felt my hand slowly sliding into my pocket. Then I saw the edge of the roof and a half dozen feet behind Elodin, and I felt my feet shift slightly, getting ready to sprint and tackle him, burying us both off the roof and down to the hard cobblestones below. I felt a sudden cold sweat sweep over my body and closed my eyes. Took a deep breath, slow breath, and the taste in my mouth faded. I opened my eyes. I need you to promise me, I said, or else I'll probably do something stupid beyond all mortal kin. I swallowed, and both of us will end up worse for it. Elodin looked at me. What a remarkably honest threat. Normally, they're much more growlish and gristly than that. Gristly, I asked, emphasizing the T. Don't you mean grizzly? Both, he said. Usually there's a lot of, I'll break your knees, I'll break your neck, he shrugged. Makes me think of gristle. Like when you're boning a chicken. Ah, I said, I see. Just fucking great.
I love that. Elodin's the shit, dude. Like his focus on like language is fucking great.
Yeah. And I love the fact that he's like, normally people are threatening to break my knees and my neck, and like he's like, yeah, people threaten me all the time. He's like, they just can't fucking do shit about it because I'm fucking Elodin.
So at this point, I'm impressed with Kvothe's his control over himself, even though he's tasting the plumb bob.
Yeah, very was able to resist the urge to do something fucking crazy.
That point where he's reaching, he feels his knife and he starts reaching. I'm like, God damn it, Kvothe, don't do it. And he's like, I see the edge of that roof. I'm gonna bury him down into the cobblestone. I'm like, no, Kvothe, don't do it.
Yeah, I love that he becomes conscious of the knife, and like even subconsciously, his hand is like going towards it. It's great, man.
Yeah, his feet are shifting, ready. He is getting ready to pounce.
And you get like from Elodin, you get he obviously he's like, I'm not sending someone to get her. He's like, it's the right place for some people, but not for everybody. I wouldn't wish it on basically I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy if there was an alternative. And Kvothe's like, yeah, not good enough. I need you to fucking promise, buddy. You gotta say the words, or we're gonna get down and dirty if you don't say the words. And he's like, all right, dude, I promise on on my name and on the ever changing moon or whatever he says. But yeah, he appeases him with that line.
That deep breath and that logical reasoning with Elodin, like he has to walk himself through it. Like, look, dude, I'm gonna just talk real slowly for my sake.
Yeah.
That if you don't say this shit right now, you're dead.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Or both of us are gonna be fucked. Yeah, I like his.
Right.
I love Elodin's. What a remarkably honest threat.
Yeah.
Right. I appreciate your forwardness. I did want to make sure I touched on, because it was big to me, especially for like first time reading it through, I think it's just big anyway, where Elodin looks between the two of them and he says, Auri, and realizes he calls her Auri, and she says, it's my name. Oh, is it now? Kvothe gave it to me. Isn't it marvelous? And he does say it's a lovely name and it suits you. It's like having a flower in my heart. And then she gives Elodin a serious look. If your name is getting too heavy, you should have Kvothe give you a new one. I thought that was pretty telling towards Kvothe's naming ability, especially coming from Auri going towards Elodin. I think that is the reason why Elodin's like, all right, buddy, you can come in my class.
Yeah, well,
It may not be a waste of time.
You get that aspect, and then after, he's like, she needs new clothes, and then, he's got the funny line where it's like, oh, does she need new loot strings as well? And it's like, yeah, if you can get them.
yeah.
But then
on top of that,
like,
why don't you get some gold bars and some gems?
Yeah. And he's like, why Auri? And like, because she doesn't have anyone else, I said. Neither do I. If we don't look out for each other, who will? He shook his head. No. Why did you pick that name for her? Ah, I said, embarrassed. Because she's so bright and sweet, she doesn't have any reason to be, but she is. Auri means sunny. In what language, he asked. I hesitated. Ciaru, I think. Elodin shook his head. Sunny is Leveriat in Ciaru. I tried to think of where I'd learned the word. Had I stumbled onto it in the archives? Before I could bring it to mind, Elodin spoke. I am preparing to teach a class, he said casually, for those interested in the delicate and subtle art of naming. He gave me a sideways look. It occurs to me that it might not be a complete waste of your time. I might be interested, I said carefully.
So did you guys find it interesting at all that Auri asks Elodin, number one, that Auri asks Elodin, or tells him, hey, if you need a name change, talk to Kvothe. But then, two, Tim, did you, when she said it's like having a flower in your heart, did you reluctantly think cut flower?
I did not.
I don't know. Those are just the two things that popped up in my head.
Now that you mention it, that'd be sad.
Well, she's not taking it in a depressing route.
It was
she's
about
like
Kvothe.
Talking about like anytime she thinks of her name, like that is probably the the music would probably be second, but I think the thing that most endears Kvothe to her is the fact that she gave that he gave her the name Auri. She's taken on that name, and for whatever reason, I think it's because she's a princess and she's broken, and I think there's history behind who she is. But I think that new name lifted that weight of her name, who she is, who her lineage is. I think it lifted that weight off her shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, again, we get this reiterated over and over again that names mean something. And it seems like, especially in her situation, she's alone, except for seemingly two people. So she needs to be seen, and Kvothe sees her. At least that's the way she feels about it. And that name is a representation of that he sees her. He sees her capability. He sees what she is, what she's capable of, what have you. And I think that's what brings that weight off of her, where she can now start to come out of her shell to some degree, at least with two individuals as far as we know.
I wondered at first if when we find out that he named her, not in this chapter, earlier, that if it was just she had forgotten her name, and at this point I'm realizing that she wasn't that she forgot her name, he changed her name, right?
Yeah, he gave her a new name.
I thought it was really interesting, and Dan, you just kind of went over this, but it is interesting when Elodin says, why Auri? And Kvothe is like in his own mind, thinking of himself, and he's like, well, because she doesn't have anyone. It's like, why did you choose this woman?
Yeah.
Instead of like, why'd you give her this name? Well, because we have each other, and I care about her. He's like, nah, dude, stop.
Elodin's all about names.
I'm not asking you that shit.
Thinking on that, they're not on the same wavelength. Elodin is all.
Yeah,
about
he's like,
names.
I'm not asking you personal questions about your relationships.
It's like, do you look at me and think
I don't
give
have
a
anyone
shit
else
about like the people to people? Do you see how big of a dick I am to people? Like, nah, dude, I'm all about the names, man. It's all names with me.
Yeah, it does feel like with Elodin, everyone's a chess piece.
Yeah,
and he's just moving things around the board. It's kind of how everybody is.
But he does. He is a little bit of a softy for the broken people. He's definitely a little softy for the broken people. We see that in Haven, and we see that with Auri. But I love too the way this chapter ends is, you know, he invites him to the class, tells him to read that book. I think that's actually the book that Kvothe tells Bast to read, that Bast keeps refusing to read. I'm 99% sure that that's the same book, because there's a book by Tecum that Bast keeps putting off reading. I don't think it's important in the story, so I never look it up, but I'm pretty sure. But anyways,
rhetorical something in it, rhetoric or
underlying principles. Tecum's underlying principles.
I did want to mention though, because you mentioned it, and then I went into something else. But I think it says a lot that Kvothe thought he called her Sonny in Ciaro, and that's not even what he called her.
Basically that's definitely that's a sign of his naming. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that the sleeping mind being utilized for the naming, and then he's closer to the mark when he doesn't think too much. You know, when he allows the sleeping mind to run the show. And yeah, I love that, man. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, to Rothfuss' credit, how judiciously he gradually brings us into this sleeping mind before actually introducing, you know, what it is or giving it a label. He's been intricately peppering it in with, you know, when Kvothe, his whole family's killed, and then he's basically his sleeping mind's running the show as he plays music. And then, you know, there's all these different circumstances where when he allows things to happen and he works off of instinct rather than thinking too much, he tends to come out for the better. And then Elodin literally drives directly at that. And of course, Kvothe can't see it.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Dude, you just tell me what you're talking about? Well, he's like, I'm literally trying to tell you, like, show you exactly what has been pulling you all the way in this direction from the beginning. And it's just he's in his own way. His mind's in his own way.
Super and well, at this point, Elodin doesn't even, give pause for it. He's like, why did you name her that? And Kvothe has no idea why he named her that. He thinks he knows why, but obviously that was the wrong thing. Elodin immediately recognized it. And it's like, hey, I got a class that you should join.
Yeah.
He recognizes that Kvothe knew her name in his sleeping mind. For whatever reason he named her that, we don't know at this point, but...
Yeah, no, yeah. Elodin definitely saw it for what it was. Kvothe has no idea why he named her that, really. He thinks he does, but he doesn't.
Two additional things here that makes me love Elodin even more is he says it's utter horseshit, which I love that he just throws that out there. And then like he finds out, and he says it's utter horseshit that he's not, he hasn't got back in the archives. So he's like, take my class. Well, can't get in the archives. What the fuck are you talking about? And then immedially makes a beeline for Lauren's window. Well, and he's like, we'll get you in there. Fuck this shit.
It's not only like it's like, yeah, what's still, it's been what, half a year, 3/4 of a year in 3 days time. I said, Master Lauren has made his feelings clear on the issue of letting me back inside. That, Elodin said with a strange protectiveness in his voice, is utter horse shit. You're my Rilar now. Like he's now like, all right, dude, now I'm the old hermit in the woods, and now I am taking you under my fucking wing, even though it's going to be a battle for a while before you appreciate me, but I am taking you under my wing now. But yeah, and then I love they go to the window, and then Lauren like opens his window like nothing's amiss. Like this isn't strange behavior at all.
Yeah. That kind of hints at a few things. One, Lauren's always like that, right? He doesn't show anything. He's a perfect poker face. The other is Elodin does this all the time.
Yeah.
Or then, the third is
just he's such a wild card that, whatever he does, people are just like, whatever, dude. It's just Elodin. He's just weird.
There we go again. Of course, this dude's at my window right now. Yeah, it makes sense.
But
I'm surprised he has his clothes on.
One of my favorite part, he's like, I was gonna keep him out for a year and a day. And yeah, very traditional, you fucking nerd.
Yeah, we get it, dude. The point's made. All right.
But yeah, he's like, let him in. He's like, all right, tomes only. He's like, Tomes is for feckless tits who can't chew their own food, Elodin said dismissively. My boy's a Relar. He has the feck of 20 men. He needs to explore the stacks and discover all manner of useless things. And I love the... He's like, my concern is for the archives itself. Elodin reached out and grabbed me by the shoulder, pushing me forward a bit. How about this? If you catch him larking around, I'll let you cut off his thumbs. That should set an example, don't you think? Lauren gave us two of us a slow look, then he nodded. Very well, he said, and closed his window. What the hell? I demanded, wringing my hands.
I love first Elodin's, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Got you in.
Yeah.
I was like, no, man. What the fuck?
Yeah. What the hell? It's like, what? You're in. Problem solved. I like fixed your problem.
It's
like
what,
the second part of this where he's like,
cut off my thumbs?
It's like, well, what are you going to do? Something stupid? No, you're not? Well, then you're fine.
You got nothing to worry about, dude. You'll be fine.
But I would even when he exits carefully because it's tough to gauge when Lauren's being coy or joking around. Like he might actually cut your thumbs off. So tread lightly, buddy.
Great. It's so great where he's like, yeah, you got nothing to worry about. But then as they cut out, he's like, but you know what? You can't really tell when he's joking around or taking it too seriously. So yeah, just don't fuck around in there.
So I kind of thought that was a joke that Elodin threw out there because Elodin's the one who you don't know if he's fucking joking or not. Or like Lauren's pretty straightforward. It's Elodin, and he's making a joke there. I thought, but I don't like that part.
No, I like hilarious. That it came from him. The fact that it comes from him is a joke for us, at least.
Right.
But yeah, he's fantastic. Well, sometimes I do wonder, does he know how ironic he's being? Like the fact that he says some of these things is like, what this sounds like, right? Like it's coming from you, like right?
You look at first finish the chapter, but then a quick point, like because there's nothing much left of the chapter. It's like he goes through like he's taking more with the Medica, the fishery, sympathy with Elxadal, then. I spotted Elodin's name, then ran my finger back to where the title of the class was listed in fresh dark ink. Introduction to Not Being a Stupid Jackass. I sighed and pinned my name in a single blank space beneath. So it's
if I was signing up, if I was signing up for classes and I knew I was taking a class under a professor, and then I saw that was the title, I'd be like, this is my new favorite person in the world.
Yeah.
Like that alone would be like, this dude's the shit. I'll study on
I would
I don't care what the class is about.
But like people who don't like the second book as much, I think a lot of it must be they just don't. Probably there's a lot of people who don't like Denna, so Denna is a big part of the second book, so maybe they don't like that aspect. But when I look at like the two chapters we just covered, Denna to Devi to Auri to Elodin, and Auri and Elodin, like just fucking perfect chapters. They're
I think
so fucking
pretty
great.
Solid, man. Yeah.
The way that I see that as being possible is someone's read the books once and they remember.
Yeah.
I think that you always have to take account for the first read. First read, this world is brand new.
Yeah, so, and there could also be there could also be like I read the second book the day it came out. And so like I finished the first book the day before the second book came out. I timed it so that I finished the first book and could just jump straight into the second book. So I had no wait. Some people had a 4-year wait so that you could build some anticipation up there. And like if you got that kind of personality where you expect the story to go one way, you have expectations, and then when they don't go that way, it's a letdown for you. I could see where that could sour some people too. But like when you go the Plum Bob chapter and then these two chapters, fucking phenomenal.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's tremendous. And it's funny you mentioned that because we sort of debated it early on where I hadn't read the second book through yet. I read the first book through for this specifically, and I was still getting to the second book, and I was getting my anticipation up because of all the things that come out, and I was still debating in my mind, which one do I like more? And then there was no question. As soon as I got to like the plum bog, I remember I texted you. I'm like, dude, that gets in really quick. And then all the memories started coming back of where it goes after that. And then everywhere else it goes, the world gets so much bigger. He gets all these new challenges. To me, having read the books as many times as I have, book 2 is better. It's the better book of the two. It just contains so much more, and it's building on what's already been laid out before. It's always hard. It's always easy to conceive of why someone would say the first book is better of any series, simply because it is all brand new and it's weaving this new world for you and the experience. You'll remember the first time you read it and all those. And we just gave an example of where you don't get to partake in that again. But this is the best example I have of any books I've read personally of getting repay reading time and again. I mean, it gives you so much. It gives you so much that you hadn't noticed before. It gives you so much to tease out further. It gives you so much that of just like little things where you're like little rewards because you've read it before, where it's like, oh shit, now I get what he was doing there.
Yeah.
Like he's hinting at us. He does a lot of winking at the reader, which there's no way you could know that the first time through. And it's the best example that I have personally from all the books I've read of the repay reading that you get time and again. It's another thing, because there's plenty of books I've read multiple times where you get to relive the experience, and that's fun, and it's nice to sit back in that space again. But with this, it's those Easter eggs, man. It's those reveals that you just could not have had the first or maybe even second or third time through. It's phenomenal, man. It's like you're opening a present again, but it's new. It's fucking great.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the differences between me. Why I typically don't get disappointed in books when they don't go the way I want them to go is that's not my main concern. I have things that I want to happen, but if they don't happen, so what? As long as it's well written and it's believable, it makes sense, it's clever, like that's the kind of shit I care about. Like I just want it to be clever and to be something where I'm like entertained and enjoy it. Like I don't care if Brayden is Master Ash or Cinder is Master Ash. I care that it makes sense, like that. It's got to be that Brayden, if Cinder's Master Ash, then Brayden's got to have some kind of important role, and it's got to make sense why all these clues were laid out that Brayden could be him.
You can't just disappear, guys. And I will say, the best example that jumps to my mind is I had plenty of things I wanted to have happen to the Starks in Song of Ice and Fire.
Don't spoil people who haven't read it. Yeah.
Well, all I was going to say is there were times that I literally threw the book.
Yeah.
I literally threw the book across the room in anger. And I wasn't disappointed at the end. I told everybody, these are some of the best books I've ever read. The journey you're taking on is super tense. And I got so mad, I literally threw the freaking book. I remember yelling at my wife how angry I was at times. But you get paid off. You go to the next few chapters, and it's like, this dude's fucking amazing.
And a lesson.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I don't need my expectations met. I just need to have the tension rewarded. With more tension, with more intrigue as we lead on. Book 4 pissed people off with that series.
Your anger, in that case, your anger's directed at it's something. It's your anger is an emotion that you're experiencing in the book. You're invested in the characters and you're loving it, and that's what Dan's saying. Like
that's the biggest compliment. That's the biggest compliment. If I could write a book where somebody literally gets that invested, where they're so emotional that they react in a visceral way like that, an actual physical way, that's a massive compliment to the author. It's
Absolutely.
not, this guy fucked up by upsetting me. No, dude, you made somebody.
You're not reading.
If you can, if you can move somebody to levels like that, holy shit, dude, that's a massive accomplishment.
You're not reading these books. You're not reading these books so that you come out feeling great all the time. That the emotional roller coaster, or the enthrallment of what you're reading is what you're after. At least for me, I like the range of it.
Well, and then you get to the point where I'm reading to see the next surprise. What's the next thing this dude's going to do to shock me? And in terms of these books with Rothfuss, the music alone is just it floors me how great it is. How certain things just, and then what I was saying to Dan in terms of the repay readings, it's stunning how much there still can be discovered 4th, 5th time reading through. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, like I mean, when I read Ambrose getting one over on Kvothe at the archives for the first time with the candle, and he gets kicked out of the archives, I don't like. It's a hard chapter to read because I know what's going to happen to Kvothe, and I don't like the outcome, but it's a great chapter because it does bring out that feeling, and so I don't like. I don't read that chapter and be like, that's fucking shit. I can't believe he did that. It's like, I mean, I don't like that emotional feeling, but those, negative emotions are necessary when you're reading a good story. And Kvothe and Denna's interaction when she plays him the song, it's a tough one to read because you don't want that animosity between them. And then for the rest of the book, there's something off with them, but that's what makes it so fucking interesting and good to read.
That was one that was really intriguing for me the second time through, because I was like, why did this sit with me? Like, why was this so? Because I remember just feeling like everything got so disjointed that it sat with me in such an awkward and uncomfortable way that I was actually looking forward to getting back to it, just to see like, how did it happen in that way? How did it, it's such a,
I think it's such
an important part of the books.
They don't understand each other, and they're neither of them's willing to tell what the fuck, why they're doing what they're doing.
But it's so hard for the reader because you're so consistently throughout the books it's just the way human beings are put together. Like, we're looking for harmony, we're looking for things to align, and they start to, and then they don't, and then they start to, and then they don't, and then they're just pushed apart by not being able to find each other. So okay, we can grasp that, but then to have them come together and then it not fitting, that it's the opposite of puzzle pieces fitting. It's that shouldn't happen.
He brings it to this ultimate, like, it just starts rising up, their relationship's just rising up, and they're getting closer and closer, and then it just fucking crashes and burns before you get any kind of the payoff. And
it's wild.
I'm just drinking fucking Pepto fucking left and right when I'm reading those chapters. But
just sweating. You got a handkerchief.
So
Dan's got his silk handkerchief. He's dabbing his forehead.
I know I've brought it up before, but it always, when we get on this discussion, it always comes back in my head, that The Old Man and the Sea. Have you guys read that? Because it's I really recommend people. It's a lot like Sisyphus.
No, we talked about that. It is not like Sisyphus at all.
Well, here's the thing.
The misunderstood version that Fitz likes to clutch onto.
No. It's what you guys are talking about. Here's the thing. There's an aspect to life that is failure and death. And there's the opposite aspect of life, which is its counterpoint, and that's life and everything that you... So in the Old Man and the Sea, it's the same kind of allegory where he's got a goal where he is driving at this, what he's trying to do, and he gets closer and he gets closer and he gets closer, and when he achieves it, the boulder rolls back down the hill and he has to follow it back down to push it up again. And at the end of the day, how many things could have gone right and when everything gone wrong. and he's back at square one. Anyway, it's just that kind of a story where it grips you because you feel it emotionally, this want for that thing, whatever that is, to happen, and it's so true to life that you push for it, and you fail, and all along you've become who you are, and life is rewarding in and of itself.
Yeah, that's why I can accept a book not going in the direction that I want it to so easily. Is like I'm just in it for the ride. I'm just riding the waves, and I have places where I want it to go, but if it doesn't go that way, as long as it's interesting and it makes sense. Like, I don't like holes. Like, I don't like the fact that
shortcuts.
Kvothe should have just fucking let go of his Alar, like, and then took in a breath. I don't like the fact that he shouldn't have had a problem with binding the air to his lungs. That shouldn't have been an issue. Plain and simple. He should have just let go of his Alar. That I have a problem with. Like, where the fucking story goes, I don't fucking give a shit. I mean, I have places I want it to go, things that I think would be interesting. But if he takes it in a different direction, as long as it's interesting, I'm on fucking board. Let's do it.
I was gonna say, do you have problems with him fighting the bandits?
No, it's fucking amazing.
Okay. Well, then take what you can with the sympathy, okay? It's not ironclad. It's not ironclad science.
Hey, look,
buddy?
All I'm saying is, like, when Rothfuss gets to episode 5 and he's listened to that, he better fucking fix that goddamn hole with book 3. I don't care if it takes another 10 years. Dig yourself out of that hole and fix that shit up so that it's a nice little tight ending for me.
That's one hell of a challenge.
You know what's annoying too is, like, there's a part in one of the coming chapters when they're teaching Denna magic, and Will is like, he's like, yeah, and if you want to break the binding, you just stop believing. He's like, to power the magic, you just have to have, a strong Alar. You have to believe it at such a deep level that you make it true. And if you want to stop, you just stop believing that, and then it stops. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Right there. Right there. That's my fucking point. Why didn't he just fucking stop?
But I think it's a chance that he could have just not been experienced enough to let go.
We teased this out. The other idea is he's clenching so hard he can't let go, or you're going to have to give him some type of character trait that this comes back to bite him in the future, or he learns that he can let go.
He already knows he can
something
learn
like that is going to have to tease it up.
And Ben should have told him. Yeah, we hashed it out. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's a fucking hole. It bothers me. It bothers me every time he breaks his Alar with ease. Like, it bothers me because I'm like, that scene doesn't make any fucking sense.
Dan's chipping away at the hole. I'm trying to put a finger in the dike right now. That's all I'm trying to.
I'm trying to.
I'm saying embrace
embrace
the hole.
Put a neon sign on the hole so that Rothfuss, he has unlimited possibilities. He can just make up bullshit. I don't care what you got to do. Make something up. Fix that fucking hole.
I say embrace it. Embrace the holes. I mean, you were saying put a neon sign. I'm putting a neon sign above it, and that you need to close this hole.
Yeah, fix it up. But
spackle that shit.
I probably finish up there. I think next week we can dive into. He will get into his class with Elodin, and he will get to explore the library. And yeah, I think it'll mainly be library and Elodin stuff with the next episode. Because I don't know if we'll get all the way to where, they're at the bar with Denna, but that would be the next thing, that he sees Denna with Ambrose is coming up, and then, he pouts for a while and then runs into her at the bar. So that's kind of the next things that are coming up.
Speaking of turns in the story that piss you off and you wish hadn't happened, I'm not mad at the story, but it does piss me off that she is flirting with Ambrose.
I mean, if you're Rothfuss, you got to do it, man. You got to do it, man. You got to have that the two of them together walking in front of Kvothe, so Kvothe could just be like, "What the fuck, man?"
And it results in, as far as the first third of the book, it's the best shit. Like, you get the break-in, then you get the malfeasance, and then you get the big, the heist scene out of that.
Oh, we didn't mention there was a there was a point when she's sitting with Kvothe that she's twirling her ring, and he notices the ring quite a bit, knows the earrings and other parts, but yeah, he looked at the ring, noticed the ring, so he's placing those little hints to what's to come.
Yeah,
but
a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff coming up.
Looking forward to it.
All right then.
All right, fucking peace out, folks. See you next week.
Yep.